Chapter 8:13. Her reputation at Capital University had been tarnished. Even though Jiang Tianhao had stood by her side to support her, defend her, and prove her innocence, many people who used to like her had turned to attack her, including her former fans. Now, they had all become passers-by. Jiang Tianhao was also unlucky. His reputation in school plummeted. He used to be a prince charming with good character and academic performance, but now he became a gigolo who seduced rich girls. The girls who used to like him withdrew their olive branches. They were too embarrassed to admit that they used to like him. Wherever he went, people would point at him. In this, besides Ji Yuqi deliberately creating hype, there was also Gu Fifen's torment. Who asked Jiang Tianhao to provoke him? Ji Yuqi, on the other hand, was still doing things her own way. She kept a low profile in school and only interacted with a few people. She spent the rest of her time practicing martial arts. She knew that Yi Zhisu had suffered a huge setback this time and would not let it go. They would definitely attack again, so she had to be prepared. On the weekend, Lin Yuxi asked Ji Yuqi to go horseback riding at a farm in the suburbs. Ji Yuqi changed into a handsome and neat riding outfit. When she arrived at the garage, she found that her car had been sent to the 4S shop for maintenance. She could only ask the driver, Li Wei, to send her to the destination. After the car left the city, it drove onto the ring highway. Ji Yuqi was drowsy, so she simply leaned against the seat and closed her eyes to rest. After some time, she suddenly felt the car stop. She suddenly opened her eyes. "Little Li, have we arrived?" "Not yet, Mississippi. There's a car accident in front. The road is blocked. I'll go take a look. I'll be back soon." Without waiting for her answer, Li Wei opened the car door and got out. Ji Yuqi looked around. Their car had already left the highway and was parked by a river. Less than 20 meters away, there was a group of people gathered around a van. They seemed to be arguing about something. Li Wei walked in front of those people. Just as he opened his mouth to ask, a man wearing a baseball cap suddenly hit Li Wei on the back of his head. Li Wei softly fell to the ground. Then, the man in the baseball cap led the group of people towards Ji Yuqi. Ji Yuqi sensed that something was wrong and quickly climbed from the back seat to the front. She wanted to drive away, but the car keys were taken away by Li Wei. An arm reached in through the window, grabbed her hair, and dragged her to the window. Another person got in from the other side of the car and covered her mouth and nose with a handkerchief stained with knockout powder. Ji Yuqi immediately stopped breathing. When she was practicing swimming, Zhao Yao often threw her into the swimming pool. She could hold her breath underwater for up to 15 minutes. It was not difficult for her to pretend that she was drugged. "Hurry up, get her into our car." Someone spoke in a rough voice beside her ear. Then, she was lifted up by two people and thrown into the van rudely. Her hands and legs were tied, and her head was covered with a black hood. She did not know how long the car drove before it finally came to a stop. She was half dragged, half carried, and thrown to the ground by a man. The sound of footsteps stopped beside her. She felt someone squatting beside her. Then, a hand pulled off the hood on her head. She still had her eyes closed and pretended to be unconscious. A large hand rubbed her face twice. The man laughed wretchedly. "Tsk, this woman is really beautiful. Brothers, we have found a treasure. Old Six, let's get down to business first. Brother Xian said that he wants us to take a set of erotic photos of this little girl. After we're done, we'll enjoy it. I've never touched such a delicate young lady. Isn't that right? My cock is already hard. Let's hurry up and finish. I want to make this little B*tch suffer under my body." The 5 men surrounding Ji Yuqi kept saying vulgar words. Each of them was rubbing their fists and palms together. Their eyes were shining like hungry wolves, ready to tear her to pieces at any time. Ji Yuqi's heart was filled with disgust. She really wanted to kick away the man who was caressing her cheek, but she couldn't. There were 5 of them, and they were quite skilled. If she acted rashly, she would hurt herself instead. She had to be patient and wait for the right time to strike. Shen Group, Vice President's office. Shen Zhe stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, overlooking the bustling city, the busy world, and the vast sky. He felt an inexplicable emptiness in his heart. He could not help but think of the back of the little girl who had fled. His charming phoenix eyes narrowed slightly as he played with the phone in his hand. Zhe said that women liked men thinking about them. It would be perfect if they sent a text message or called from time to time. Well, then I'll send a text message to ask what she was doing. Forget it, I'd better call her. He hadn't heard her voice for several days. In the car on the side of the road, the milky white mobile phone was forgotten in the back seat of the car. The beautiful melody sounded again and again, but no one answered. Shenja frowned. What happened to Yuchi? Why didn't she answer his phone? He quickly returned to his desk, opened his laptop, and used the positioning software to find the location of Yuchi. He found that she was in an abandoned warehouse in the suburbs. He immediately jumped up from the chair, grabbed the mobile phone and ran out. Since practicing martial arts, Ji Yuchi's hearing had become sharp. She heard 3 people leaving. They were probably going to prepare the camera equipment. The 2 people left behind untied the ropes on her hands and feet. Okay, the camera is ready. The 2 of you quickly take off her clothes and take pictures while she's unconscious. A pair of hands touched Ji Yuchi's chest, and another pair fell on her waist. She trembled slightly and slowly opened her eyes. Her eyes were filled with confusion. Then, she panicked and shouted, "Who are you?" She rolled back in fear, avoiding the 2 pairs of hands. The man standing behind the camera cursed, "Damn, this woman actually woke up. Tao Zi, Dinyo, you guys go and help. Take off her clothes for me. Hey!" The 2 people who were called out couldn't wait for such a good thing to fall into their hands. With a lewd smile on their faces, they quickly went forward. The 4 men surrounded Ji Yuchi and said obscene words. At the same time, they stretched out their hands and pounced on her body. Ji Yuchi flew up and kicked one of them in the chest. That person was caught off guard and was kicked. He fell on the ground and cursed, "Damn girl, your strength is not small. Brothers, be careful." Even without him saying, the 3 men knew that they had avoided Ji Yuchi's attack. A stocky fatty pounced on Ji Yuchi and used his body to suppress her. She struggled with all her strength, but the 200 pounds of weight on her body made it impossible for her to throw him off. The fatty's 2 large hands grabbed her shirt and tore it apart. The fabric made a sharp tearing sound and her chest was instantly exposed in front of everyone. It attracted the lecher's green eyes. They rubbed their palms and couldn't wait to immediately pounce on her and tear her apart. When those hands touched her body, the memories of her being violated by that man in her previous life came flooding back. Her mind was filled with bright red blood stains. She couldn't help but tremble. She stopped struggling and closed her eyes in despair. Her right hand quietly slid down, avoiding those people's hands. She touched her calf and touched the hard dagger. She quickly pulled it out. "Ah!" the fatty suddenly cried out in pain. There was an incomparably sharp dagger in his back. Ji Yuchi suddenly opened her eyes. Her cold eyes coldly stared at the fatty who was sitting on top of her. At this moment, the bloodthirsty factor in her body was revived. With her strong hatred, she didn't stop at all. She pulled out the dagger and fiercely stabbed it. This stab hit his vital point. He stared in disbelief with his bloodshot eyes. Fresh blood flowed out from the wound. Ji Yuchi expressionlessly pushed him away and he fell to the ground with a plop. The other 4 looked at Ji Yuchi, who was covered in blood, and couldn't help but shiver. That woman was too terrifying. She was like a vengeful ghost that came to claim their lives. She held a blood-stained knife in her hand and stared coldly at them. Her clothes were open in front of her chest, and her soft breasts were wrapped in her bra. She looked as if her breasts were about to burst out, releasing a fatal charm. She casually pulled her lapel to cover it up a little. Her cold eyes swept over the 4 people who were already in a state of alert. She coldly said, "Who is Brother Xian? Was he the one who ordered you to kidnap me? Brothers, don't talk nonsense with her. Let's go together. Let's avenge the dead de Xiong. Go." The 4 men casually picked up chairs, wooden sticks, daggers, and other items and rushed towards Ji Yuqi. Ji Yuqi was like a demon who had crawled out from hell. She coldly waved the dagger and circled around the 4 men. She didn't even blink as she cut off a man's ear, slashed another man's arm, and stabbed the dagger into another man's chest. She was also injured. A red and swollen bump appeared on her forehead. Her back and legs were slashed by the dagger. She gritted her teeth and didn't make a sound. These injuries were nothing compared to the pain of falling off a cliff in her previous life. She used the dagger to stab her enemies again and again. She didn't know who it was, but someone's blood sprayed on her face and blurred her vision. There were only 2 men left who surrounded her. Just as she was about to lose her strength, she heard a few gunshots and the 2 men stiffly fell to the ground. Ji Yuqi's legs went soft. A figure quickly rushed over and hugged her tightly in his arms. His deep and hoarse voice was low and hoarse. "Chi-Chi, don't be afraid. I'm here." The strong smell of blood rushed to her nose. His palms were covered in sticky blood. Shenja didn't care and hugged Ji Yuqi even tighter. The moment he saw her in danger, his heart almost stopped. Only when he hugged her and felt her warmth did he dare to believe that she was still alive. The man behind her was trembling. Ji Yuqi's long eyelashes fluttered. The red in her eyes slowly dissipated and her mind regained some clarity. She killed someone. She really killed someone. Although she had fantasized about killing Jiang Tianhao countless times, she had never put it into practice. This was her first time killing someone, but she couldn't guarantee that it would be the last time. She stared blankly at her hands. Her hands were stained with blood. She couldn't wash them clean. She had already embarked on a path of no return. Her heart would become more ruthless and cold. She didn't dare to look back. She was afraid to see Shenja's disgusted eyes. If he saw her vicious side, he would hate her. The warm blood seeped through the thin material of his shirt and stained Shenja's chest. Only then did he realize that her back was injured. He hurriedly let go of her and carefully examined her injuries. The wound on her back was at least 5 centimeters long. Her arm was also scratched. His heart tightened. He carried her in his arms and carefully avoided her wounds as he strode out. Come and see, Songshu 566. Chapter 8:14. Ji Yuqi allowed him to do as he pleased. She lowered her eyes and looked at the blood all over the floor, as well as the corpses that had died with their eyes wide open. Her stomach churned with a strong sense of nausea, and she covered her mouth tightly. Don't look. They all deserve to die. Shenja sensed that something was wrong with her, so he lowered his head and comforted her. Then, he quickened his pace and walked out. Ji Yuqi leaned sideways against the back of the chair. She was wearing Shenja's jacket, and her body was still trembling slightly. Shenja found a medical kit from somewhere, lifted her blood-soaked shirt, and carefully bandaged her wound. The scratch on her fair skin was particularly glaring. His heart ached for her, and a trace of sternness flashed across his deep eyes. After treating the wounds on her back and arm, he gently turned her head over and cleaned the wound on her forehead. His eyes were slightly lowered, and his gaze was focused on the wound on her forehead. His movements were extremely gentle, as if he was treating his most precious treasure. His warm breath brushed against her forehead like a warm feather, gently soothing the panic in her heart. It was the panic of her first murder. After applying the medicine, he supported her to lean against his shoulder with one hand, and covered her eyes with the other. He said gently, "You're tired. Rest for a while." She didn't say anything, but quietly leaned against him. Her heavy eyelids closed, and an overwhelming sense of fatigue swept over her. In a daze, she heard Zhe deliberately lowering his voice. "Young master, those people have been cleaned up. It's a pity that we didn't manage to find out the mastermind behind it. In a 5-story teaching building, Ji Yuqi stood on the rooftop and looked down. The boy she liked was holding the hand of a girl in a white dress, and they left without looking back. The girl in the white dress turned back to look at her, and there was a vicious smile on her beautiful face. She said, "Ji Yuqi, I've snatched away your tang feng." The wind whistled, and Ji Yuqi's long dress fluttered. She stood on the rooftop, closed her eyes in despair, and took a step in the air. Suddenly, a hand grabbed her arm. She turned back and saw Jiang Tianhao smiling at her. "Yuqi, even if the whole world abandons you, I won't abandon you. Come, I'll pull you up." He reached out his hand, and she was touched and held it tightly. The scene suddenly changed, and the building became a cliff. His expression suddenly changed, and he cursed fiercely, "Ji Yuqi, you be *tch, hurry up and die." He flung her hand away, and kicked her chest, kicking her down the cliff. Ji Yuqi screamed and sat up. Her whole body was drenched in sweat, and her wet hair stuck to her forehead. Her face was pale, and her eyes were full of fear. She couldn't distinguish between reality and a dream. She pinched her arm hard, and only when she felt the pain did she realize that she was still alive. "What's wrong? Did you have a nightmare?" Shenja was sitting on a chair in front of the window, and he was holding a laptop in his hand. When he heard her scream, he closed the laptop and hurried to her side. He sat at the head of the bed and hugged her, who was in a daze. His right hand patted her back gently, and he comforted her gently. "It's okay, Chi-Chi. Don't be afraid, I'm here." His chest was firm and warm, and it made her feel very safe. She leaned in his arms and smelled his unique fragrance, and her uneasy heart gradually calmed down. After leaning in Shenja's arms for a long time, Ji Yuqi's emotions gradually calmed down. She leaned her head on his shoulder and said the first thing she said after returning from the abandoned warehouse. "Shenja, am I very vicious?" Shenja tightened his arms, and his chin rested on her hair. His voice was unbelievably gentle. "You're not vicious, you're just protecting yourself. If you didn't kill them, you would be the one who got hurt. Chi-Chi, you didn't do anything wrong. Of course, if anyone dared to bully her again, he would do it himself. He wouldn't let the blood of those people stain her hands again." Ji Yuqi didn't say anything else, but her heart was relieved. After her rebirth, her goal was very clear. She wanted revenge. Anyone could say that she was vicious, but not Shenja. She didn't want to be despised by him. He stroked her hair gently. She lowered her eyes and didn't say anything, and the atmosphere became a little ambiguous. Ji Yuqi came back to her senses from her own world. She suddenly felt that their actions were too intimate. She quickly straightened her body and moved her butt back. Her fair face was dyed with a faint layer of pink. "Thank you for today." Shenja couldn't help but think of the scene he saw in the warehouse. She was covered in blood and was surrounded by several men. Her clothes were torn, and the skin on her chest was exposed. If she didn't know martial arts and delayed until he rushed over, the consequences would have been unimaginable. His heart was burning with anger, and he swore to find the person who hurt her and tear them to pieces. Shenja's eyes flashed with a trace of ruthlessness, but his voice was very gentle. "I'll send a bodyguard to secretly protect you in the future." Ji Yuqi hesitated. With her current strength, it was really difficult for her to compete with Chen Tingfang. However, accepting Shenja's bodyguard meant that she would drag him down. In this life, she didn't want to implicate him. Shenja seemed to see her concerns and said, "Don't worry, the bodyguard is only responsible for protecting you. If you don't want to, I won't interfere in your affairs." Ji Yuqi finally nodded, and her gratitude towards him was even greater. It was already afternoon. Ji Yuqi had been missing for half a day. Her father and brother must be very anxious. She wanted to go back quickly. Shenja asked Zhe to drive her back. When she left Shenja's villa, she felt that something was wrong. It wasn't until the car drove out of the villa that she suddenly reacted. How did Shinja know that she was in the abandoned warehouse? She looked back and saw that Shinja was still standing at the villa's entrance. Dressed in white, he was extremely beautiful under the sunlight. The corners of his lips curled up, and there seemed to be a smile in his eyes as he watched her gradually disappear into the distance. When Lin Yushi arrived at the racecourse, she didn't see Ji Yuchi. She called her cell phone, but no one answered. She then called the Ji family, but the servants said that Yuchi had already left. Lin Yushi felt uneasy and worried that Yuchi had met with an accident. She was not in the mood to ride a horse anymore, so she rushed to the Ji family to discuss with the Ji family about the whereabouts of Yuchi. Ji Bowen dialed the number of the driver, Li Wei, and the nurse at the hospital answered. The nurse said that Li Wei was sent to the hospital by a kind person. He suffered a minor head injury and was still unconscious at the moment. Ji Bowen was anxious and uneasy. He knew that Yuchi must have met with an accident. If it was a kidnapping, why hadn't the kidnappers contacted her family? The longer Yuchi was missing, the more dangerous her situation would be. He made a prompt decision and picked up the phone to call the police. Chen Tingfang pressed his hand. Old Ji, calm down. If Yuchi was really kidnapped, the kidnappers will definitely contact us. If you call the police now, what if the kidnappers find out and are angered? What if they do something to hurt Yuchi? Ji Bowen's gaze turned cold and he said in a deep voice, if the kidnappers didn't kidnap Yuchi for ransom, then the longer we delay, the more dangerous it will be for her. Let go, I have to call the police. Why don't we wait a little longer? Maybe the kidnappers will contact us soon. Chen Tingfang persuaded, but her hand loosened. She wasn't sincerely persuading Ji Bowen. She was just putting on an act. If Ji Bowen called the police and the kidnappers took photos of Ji Yuchi and raped her, they could say that it was because Ji Bowen called the police that angered the kidnappers, causing them to hurt Ji Yuchi. This way, the kidnappers' true purpose could be covered up. Secondly, it could also sow discord between Ji Bowen and his daughter. Ji Bowen didn't wait any longer and directly called the police. He didn't notice the strange light in Chen Tingfang's eyes, but Ji Yunhan did. He was so angry that his teeth itched. This old witch. His sister was missing, and she still stopped his father from calling the police. It seemed that she couldn't wait for his sister to never come back. Thinking of this, he glared angrily at Chen Tingfang. The atmosphere in the living room was very oppressive. Ji Bowen and Ji Yunhan were like fish on a barbecue fire. Every minute and second was torture. Lin Yushi was full of guilt. She gripped her phone tightly and looked at Ji Bowen, who had a gloomy face. Uncle Ji, I'm very sorry. If I didn't ask Yuchi out to play, she wouldn't have gotten into this accident. Ji Bowen wasn't someone who didn't know right from wrong. Yushi, this isn't your fault. Don't take responsibility for it. The Lin family had a high status in Ying City. Chen Tingfang wanted to be on good terms with the Lin family, so she smiled kindly. That's right, Yushi. This is an accident. It has nothing to do with you. Please don't take it to heart. Yuchi is a kind child. If she knew that you were feeling so guilty, she would be upset too. Lin Yushi wasn't stupid. She had long seen that Chen Tingfang and Yuchi seemed to have a harmonious relationship on the surface, but in reality, they saw each other as enemies. Therefore, she turned a blind eye to Chen Tingfang's goodwill and responded politely and distantly. Ji Yunhan hated Chen Tingfang's hypocrisy the most. With a cold face, he said in a deep voice, Auntie, don't come to a conclusion so early. Whether it was an accident or man-made, we will find out very soon. Sister used to drive herself out and nothing had ever happened. This time, her car was coincidentally sent for maintenance, and little Li was driving her when she got into an accident. It's hard to say whether or not someone was behind this. Ji Bowen's expression didn't change, but his eyebrows twitched slightly. It was obvious that he took his son's words to heart. He also suspected that this wasn't as simple as a kidnapping. Chen Tingfang frowned and said unhappily, Ahan, what do you mean by that? Are you suspecting Li Wei? Don't forget that he's injured himself. Ji Yunhan snorted. I didn't say that I suspected him. You said it yourself. You, Chen Tingfang swallowed her anger and smiled. You child, why are you angry with Auntie? Auntie is just concerned about your sister. Then I really have to thank Auntie for your relationship. A familiar clear voice floated into the hall. Ji Yunhan jumped up excitedly. Sister, you're back. Ji Bowen also stood up. He couldn't hide the joy on his face. Chi-Chi, are you okay? Dad, I'm fine. Ji Yuchi wore a beige dress. Her hair hung over her shoulders, and her bangs covered the scar on her forehead. She walked gracefully into everyone's line of sight. There was a bright smile on her exquisite face. She hugged Lin Yushi, who was closest to her. Yushi, I made you worry. Lin Yushi's eyes were slightly red. She smiled and punched her. It's good that you're back safely. Ji Yuchi smiled and winked at Ji Yunhan. Then, she hugged Ji Bowen's arm. Dad, I'm sorry for making you worry. Ji Bowen's throat was dry. He said repeatedly, it's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. Attention, Songshu 566. Chapter 8:15. Ji Yuchi felt a little guilty. Actually, she could have reported her safety to her family after being rescued, but she didn't. She had monitored Chen Tingfang and her daughter's phone calls. She wanted to secretly observe their reactions. As expected, the mother and daughter were very suspicious. Chen Tingfang had sent a message to Yi Zissou saying that the matter had been settled. Ji Yuchi suspected that they were related to the kidnapping, but she hadn't found any evidence yet. Chen Tingfang was the most surprised by Ji Yuchi's safe return. She pretended to be happy. Yuchi, it's great that you're back safely. Where did you go? Why did you even change your clothes? We all thought you were kidnapped. She had even changed her clothes. Wasn't that a hint that she had done something bad? Ji Yuchi smiled faintly. On the way to the racecourse, we ran into a car accident. Shaoli got out of the car to check and was knocked unconscious. I was almost taken away by them. Thankfully, a friend passed by and saved my life. I was slightly injured, and the blood stained my clothes, so I changed into a clean set of clothes. Ji Bowen's expression changed, and he shouted, Butler, quickly call Dr. Gao over. Ji Yuchi hurriedly said, Dad, I'm fine. It's not serious. I've already bandaged it at the hospital. Ji Bowen frowned slightly. Let Dr. Gao take a look. Otherwise, I won't feel at ease. Ji Yuchi couldn't persuade him, so she didn't insist. She glanced around the living room and asked, Auntie, where's Zissou? Why don't I see her? Zissou went hiking with her friends. When I heard that you were missing, I called her to ask her to come back. She should be on her way now. Hiking with her friends? She obviously went on a date with Jiang Tianhao. Ji Yuchi didn't expose her. After chatting with Lin Yushi for a while, the family doctor of the Ji family, Gao Qinghai, rushed over. Dr. Gao checked her injuries and changed the medicine. He said that the injuries weren't very serious, and Ji Bowen and the others were relieved. Yi Zissou said goodbye and left. Ji Yuchi walked her to the door. She looked around and whispered, Yuchi, I think this matter isn't simple. Be careful. Ji Yuchi's heart warmed, and she smiled. I will, Yushi. Thank you. Yi Zissou returned home anxiously, playing the role of a good sister who was concerned about her older sister. She held Ji Yuchi's hand, and her eyes were red. She was about to cry. Sister Chi-Chi, it's great that you're okay. I almost went crazy when I heard that you were missing. Who didn't know how to act? Ji Yuchi hugged her and said softly, I'm sorry, Zissou. I made you worry. Seeing that the two sisters were so close, Ji Bowen's expression softened a little. He ordered the kitchen to prepare more food that the two sisters liked to eat to help Yuchi recover from her shock. Chen Tingfang volunteered to cook, saying that she would personally cook. The atmosphere seemed harmonious, but in fact, there were undercurrents surging. Enchanting culinary skills were very good. She used her culinary skills to capture Ji Bowen's heart. Unfortunately, things were unpredictable. She didn't marry Ji Bowen, and Ji Bowen married Yuqi's mother, Su Meiyu. After Su Meiyu passed away, Chen Tingfang and Ji Bowen reunited at a banquet. Chen Tingfang relied on her cleverness to continue her relationship with Ji Bowen. She married him and became his second wife. She personally cooked and prepared a large table of dishes, some of which were Ji Bowen's favorite dishes. When Ji Bowen saw the familiar dishes, he couldn't help but recall the time when he fell in love with Chen Tingfang. At that time, he was still a poor boy, and she was the daughter of a rich family. Although she couldn't marry him because of her family, she still occupied a unique position in his heart. After Chen Tingfang married him, they also spent a warm time together. However, as the two of them got along, Chen Tingfang's shortcomings were also exposed. She spent a lot of money, was extravagant, and loved to show off in front of others, which made Ji Bowen a little unhappy. Furthermore, what she did to Yuqi during this period of time made Ji Bowen's heart cold, and his attitude towards her became even colder. "Bowen, this is your favorite soup. Drink more." Chen Tingfang scooped a bowl of soup and placed it in front of Ji Bowen. Her pair of gentle and smiling eyes were filled with expectation. Ji Bowen finally remembered her good, and faintly said, "It's been hard on you. It's good that you like it." Chen Tingfang smiled brightly. Although she was almost 40 years old, her skin was well maintained, and there wasn't a single wrinkle on her face. When she smiled, she was as bright and beautiful as a young girl. Ji Bowen was slightly dazed. It was as if he saw her in university, and his expression couldn't help but become gentle. "Come, Yuqi, try this. Auntie specially made it very light. Eating it won't leave scars on your wounds." Chen Tingfang enthusiastically picked up food for Ji Yuqi. "Thank you, Auntie." Ji Yuqi's lips curled into a faint smile. She lowered her eyes and ate the food in small bites to hide the frost in her eyes. She was already certain that Chen Tingfang was behind the kidnapping. She knew this woman too well. If she didn't have a guilty conscience, she wouldn't be so careful to please her. Back in the room, Ji Yuqi had just finished changing her clothes. Ji Yunhan stood hesitantly at her door. "Ahan, what's the matter?" Ji Yuqi tidied her hair as she let him in. Ji Yunhan's handsome cheeks were slightly red, and his clear eyes flickered. He hesitantly said, "Sis, there's something that I don't know if I should say." Ji Yuqi patted him on the head and smiled. "I'm your sister. What's there that you can't say?" "That." Ji Yunhan scratched his head and stammered, "Sis, if I say it, you can't laugh at me." In her previous life, the relationship between the siblings was cold. Ahan had never confided in her. For a moment, she was excited and expectant. Her eyes lit up as she encouraged him. "Don't laugh, don't laugh. Tell me. I think I like a girl." Ji Yunhan's cheeks were red like a shy little bunny. He was extremely innocent. Ji Yuqi had never seen him like this. She wanted to laugh, but she was afraid of angering her brother, so she could only try her best to suppress it. The corners of her eyes were full of smiles. She pretended to be serious and said, "Ahan, you're all grown up. It's normal for you to like girls. What kind of girl is she? Is she beautiful?" Ji Yunhan nodded vigorously. "Very beautiful." He seemed to have thought of something and the light in his eyes dimmed. He hesitated for a moment and said, "She's a very good girl, but her family background isn't good." "So what if her family background isn't good? Don't you know Dad? He won't exchange his children's marriage for family benefits. As long as you like each other, Dad will definitely agree." Ji Yuqi smiled and stroked his hair. She said gently, "Besides, you're only in your first year of high school. There's still a long way to go in the future. What happens in the future depends on you. Ahan, I won't stop you from dating, but you can't let it affect your studies." You're the successor of the G family in the future. Dad and Mom want the G group to flourish in your hands. I understand, sis. I know what to do. I won't let you down. Ji Yunhan's eyes were firm and his young and handsome face was solemn. Ji Yuqi smiled. My brother is the best. Of course I believe in you. Ji Yunhan raised his eyebrows and smiled. His smile was as bright as the sun, so no one could look directly at him. Ji Yuqi's lips curled into a smile as she watched him leave. When his figure disappeared, the smile on her face vanished and her heart sank. She would never forget that in 2 months, Ahan would go astray and lose his life in a gang fight. Her father suffered a huge blow and became seriously ill. After that, his health deteriorated day by day. He had no choice but to let Jiang Tianhao enter the G group to help him. It could be said that Ahan's death was the opportunity for Jiang Tianhao to enter the G group. Ji Yuqi closed her eyes and opened them again. Her gaze was extremely cold. This time, she was going to stop the tragedy from happening. She would not let those B***Gs get away with it. In Yi Zisu's bedroom, Chen Tingfang sat on the sofa with a bad expression. Yi Zisu's expression was also very bad. She paced around the room and complained, Mom, what's going on? Didn't Dad say that it was already settled? Why is Ji Yuqi, that B***tch, back in one piece? Chen Tingfang rolled her eyes at her. Sit down. You're pacing around. My eyes are getting dizzy. Can't you be more mature like a little B***tch? You can't keep your cool no matter what you encounter. You're just like your dad. What sin have I committed to have met the two of you debt collectors? Yi Zisu saw that she was angry, so she quickly sat beside her. She hugged her arm and said coquettishly, Mom, don't be angry. Although Dad has a bad temper, he still loves you very much. Look, when you asked him to do something for you, he agreed without a second thought. Of course, Yi Zisu did not say that the matter had been handled very badly. She only grumbled in her heart. You don't have to speak up for him. He doesn't love me. He loves the money in my hands. Chen Tingfang knew her ex-husband, Yi Zhaoxian, too well. He might have some feelings for her, but these feelings were worthless in the face of money. Mom, Yi Zisu wanted to persuade her again, but Chen Tingfang raised her hand to signal her not to say anything more. She said earnestly, Zisu, you're Mom's only daughter. Everything Mom does is for you. Remember, we're a real family. Mom, of course I know. Yi Zisu leaned against her and said coquettishly, Mom, you're so good to me. I'll be filial to you in the future. Chen Tingfang nodded with satisfaction. A lot of things have happened at home recently. That little B***tch has been able to avert danger every time. I suspect that she got the news in advance. Yi Zisu bit her lip. Mom, could it be that Chenifei betrayed us? Chenifei's bullying of her was still vivid in her mind. Although she knew that he had taken an aphrodisiac and that he had apologized to her afterward, she still had a knot in her heart and alienated her attitude towards him. No, although Yifei is a bit unrestrained, he's still trustworthy. Chen Tingfang thought for a moment and said, I suspect that it's the servants at home. Mother Wu and Rura have a very close relationship with that little B***tch. Yi Zisu smirked and said proudly, Mom, let's find a chance to kick those two out of the Ji family. Chen Tingfang shook her head. No need. If we kick them out, Ji Yuqi can still bribe others. We can't guard against them. It's better to keep those two by our side and use them to pass false information to Ji Yuqi. Her lips curled into a cold smile and her eyes were bottomless. Yi Zisu admired her mother and secretly decided to learn from her. Temporary failure was nothing to be afraid of. The final victory belonged to them. Attention, Hongcha 866. Chapter 816. The next day, Chen Tingfang drove a BMW to the beauty salon. It was a beauty salon called Weimei SPA. The customers here were either rich or powerful, and everyone was part of the upper class. The moment Chen Tingfang appeared, many familiar faces greeted her. She greeted them politely and walked into her private room. Not long after entering the room, Chen Tingfang changed her clothes, put on sunglasses and a hat, and left the beauty salon through another door. The black car she was in gradually drove away, and a white sports car followed behind her silently. The black car was parked in the underground garage of a 5-star hotel. Chen Tingfang carried her handbag and stepped out of the car elegantly in her 10 centimeters high heels. In the distance, a cold woman in black was sitting in the sports car, and her sharp and cold gaze followed Chen Tingfang's figure until she entered the elevator. Chen Tingfang pushed open the door of the presidential suite, lazily took off her glasses and casually placed them at the entrance. A pair of arms suddenly hugged her tightly from behind, and a hot breath brushed past her earlobes. The man's hoarse and deep voice rang in her ears. "Baby, I missed you so much. Stop fooling around, I have something to discuss with you." Chen Tingfang turned around and stared at the man in front of her, her beautiful eyes filled with coquettishness and resentment. "Ah, Xian, didn't you promise me that you would definitely take care of that little bitch Ji Yuqi? What exactly happened, and she actually ran away?" The man was tall and had a square face. He was handsome and domineering, but it was a pity that his eyes were too sinister, revealing a heart-palpitating viciousness. He frowned slightly, and his eyes were cold. "I'm also very curious about this question. I found 5 people to take care of her, but all 5 of them are missing. There are still bloodstains on the floor of the abandoned warehouse, and I suspect that those people are already dead. If it was Ji Yuqi who did it, then she's too powerful." Chen Tingfang thought for a moment and shook her head. "It's not her. She doesn't have the ability to destroy the evidence after killing someone. That little b** tch said that someone saved her. I suspect that she has someone backing her up." Yi Zhaoxian raised his eyebrows and his gaze turned cold. Could it be someone from the Tang family? The Tang family and the Ji family have an engagement. Tang Hejia, that old fox, loves Ji Yuqi very much. Maybe he will secretly send someone to protect her. Chen Tingfang couldn't guess who helped Ji Yuqi escape. She frowned and said, "No matter who it is, we have to be more careful now. Have you made arrangements for Ji Yunhan?" "It's already been arranged. Don't worry, nothing will go wrong this time." Yi Zhaoxian pulled Chen Tingfang into his arms and kissed her on the cheek. Chen Tingfang leaned on his chest and pinched his chin with her slender fingers. She smiled seductively. "That's good. If something goes wrong again, the money will be halved. Babe, we have been husband and wife for a day, so talking about money will hurt our feelings. Let's talk about something else. For example, talk about love." Yi Zhaoxian smiled ambiguously, and suddenly picked her up and threw her onto the big bed next to him. The two of them were like firewood, and soon, they were burning with passion. An hour later, Chen Tingfang, who was nourished by love, walked out of the hotel with her face glowing. She returned to the beauty salon and lazily enjoyed the beauty treatment. On the other side, someone had found out the identity of the man who checked in with Chen Tingfang. He calmly sat in the car and reported to Ji Yuqi through the communication device. Ji Yuqi touched the earphone in her ear and smiled coldly. "Yi Zhaoxian. I didn't expect Chen Tingfang to still be with her ex-husband. Things are getting more interesting. Qingsang, you did well. Thank you for your hard work." Qingsang's beautiful face was expressionless. "Miss Ji, what should I do next?" Qingsang was the bodyguard that Shinja gave to Ji Yuqi. Ji Yuqi's beautiful eyes narrowed slightly. Chen Tingfang met Yi Zhaoxian this time. It's not as simple as cheating. She must have asked him to do something in private. Qingsang, follow Yi Zhaoxian for the time being and see what he plans to do. The next time he goes on a date with Chen Tingfang, we'll get evidence of their affair. Qingsang was busy tracking Yi Zhaoxian, but Ji Yuqi was not idle either. She hired a private investigator to investigate the Ji family's driver, Li Wei. 2 days ago, she was kidnapped. It was Li Wei who stopped the car halfway that the kidnappers found the opportunity to kidnap her. She suspected that Li Wei was Chen Tingfang's man. "Miss Ji, this is the information you asked for." A handsome man in a black suit and gold-rimmed glasses placed a stack of information in front of Ji Yuqi. Ji Yuqi nodded politely. She picked up the information and read it carefully. Her charming eyes became deeper and deeper, and her expression became colder and colder. As she expected, Li Wei was indeed Chen Tingfang's man. Li Wei looked honest, but in reality, he loved gambling. Not only did he owe a huge debt to the casino, he even mortgaged his wife to the casino's boss. The casino's people chased Li Wei for his debt every 2 to 3 days. In a desperate situation, he was bought over by Chen Tingfang for a price of 200,000 yuan. Chen Tingfang asked him to be a spy and personally deliver Ji Yuqi to the kidnappers. He pretended to be injured and used the trick of injuring himself to clear suspicion. What a heartless Li Wei! What a vicious and merciless Chen Tingfang! Ji Yuqi sneered and threw the information on the table. Her whole body suddenly emitted a cold aura. The handsome man opposite her could not help but raise his eyebrows. His eyes, hidden behind his glasses, flashed with a flash of light. "Mr. Liang, you're very efficient. I'm very satisfied. This is your reward." Ji Yuqi pushed an envelope in front of Liang Yu. Liang Yu stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window and watched as Ji Yuqi's graceful figure got into a car by the roadside. He picked up the phone and his handsome face had a respectful expression. "Young Master Shen, I've already handed the information to Miss Ji." "Yes, I'll take note." Liang Yu was getting more and more confused by his boss. He obviously wanted to curry favor with Miss Ji. Why didn't he make a move? Why did he hide behind the scenes and hide the true source of Miss Ji's information? That's right. When Ji Yuqi found this small private detective agency, Shinja bought it and even sent his elite, Liang Yu, to take care of it. His goal was to make the entire detective agency serve only Ji Yuqi. Liang Yu was very clear about the importance of Ji Yuqi in his boss's heart. Therefore, he spared no effort to curry favor with this future wife of his boss. Every time he offered the most considerate service, he hoped that this future wife would put in a good word for him in front of his boss. Of course, his wishful thinking fell through. Ji Yuqi had no idea that Shinja had done so much for her behind her back. After reading Li Wei's detailed information, Ji Yuqi was furious. It wasn't because Li Wei had caused her to be kidnapped, but because Li Wei was too much of a scumbag. As a grown man, he had no sense of responsibility for his family. He had never given a single cent to his family. After getting into debt, he actually mortgaged his wife to the casino and allowed her to be humiliated. He was no different from that beast, Jiang Tianhao. Both of them weren't fit to be human. Ji Yuqi's hidden hatred in the bottom of her heart was ignited. She decided to teach this scumbag a lesson on behalf of herself and Li Wei's wife. After Li Wei was discharged from the hospital, he immediately went to Ji Bowen to admit his mistake and resign. With a face full of shame, he expressed that he hadn't protected Miss well and had let old master down. He didn't have the face to continue staying in the Ji family. Ji Bowen didn't blame Li Wei verbally, but in his heart, he was somewhat dissatisfied. After all, his precious daughter's injury was more or less related to him. Therefore, Ji Bowen didn't say anything to persuade Li Wei to stay. Instead, he asked the butler to give him 2 more months' salary and agreed to his resignation. Li Wei carried a handbag and happily walked out of the bank. There were 200,000 yuan in the bag. He was going to take this money and leaving city to start a new life. The casino, the Ji family, and even his wife had long been forgotten by him. With so much money on him, Li Wei didn't feel at ease taking public transport. He specially called for a taxi to the airport. The driver turned his face and smiled sinisterly. "Yo, you've struck it rich. You actually have money to take a plane. Hurry up and return the money from our casino." Li Wei looked as if he had seen a ghost in broad daylight. His face was frighteningly pale. How could there be such a coincidence? He actually met the casino's hired thugs. He subconsciously hugged the handbag to his chest and trembled as he said, I don't have money. I'm going to the airport to pick someone up. Humph, cut the crap. Follow me to the casino. The driver glared at him fiercely and stepped on the accelerator. The car sped towards the underground casino with Li Wei in tow. When they arrived at the destination, a burly man twisted Li Wei out of the car like a wine bottle and threw him heavily into the basement. Li Wei hugged the bag of money and curled up in a corner. A woman with disheveled hair and dirty body rushed in crying and wailing. She punched and kicked Li Wei. Li Wei, you bastard. You ungrateful scum. I'll kill you. This woman who seemed to have lost her mind was Li Wei's wife. She worked like a horse for the Li family and served her in-laws wholeheartedly. She treated her husband wholeheartedly, but her husband heartlessly sold her to the casino. These days, her life was worse than an animal's. If it wasn't for the fact that she couldn't bear to part with her child, she would have killed herself long ago. Stop hitting me, Xiufang. I had no choice. I still love you. Look, aren't I here to pick you up now? Li Wei knew that he couldn't keep the 200,000 yuan and immediately jumped up to express his loyalty to his wife. Wang Xiufang cried and laughed at the same time. Her eyes were bleak and despairing. If she didn't know the truth, she would have been deceived by him. She ruthlessly slapped Li Wei's face. You bastard, you don't deserve to be human. You only have money in your eyes. When have you ever thought about Huan Huan and me? Huan Huan was their daughter, and she was only 5 years old. What would she do with a father like this? The corner of Li Wei's mouth was cut and blood flowed out. He flew into a rage and pointed at Wang Xiufang's nose. Wang Xiufang, I'm warning you. Stop hitting me. If you dare hit me again, I'll divorce you immediately. Fine, I'll divorce you. I'll dump you, scum. Wang Xiufang pounced on him and ruthlessly scratched his face. In an instant, 5 bloody marks appeared on his face. Through the surveillance camera, the couple could be seen fighting. Every time the woman was at a disadvantage, a bodyguard would rush out and ruthlessly throw Li Wei out. Thus, the fight between the man and the woman gradually turned into a one-sided beating of the man by the woman. Soon, Li Wei was beaten into a pig's head. He lay on the floor like a dead dog, panting heavily. Awesome novel, Hongcha 866. Chapter 817. The owner of the casino, Mike, couldn't be bothered to look at Li Wei's cowardly face. He turned his head to look at the mysterious woman beside him. She was wearing a long black dress and had long, curly hair. A pair of large sunglasses covered half of her face, revealing only her flame-like red lips. She was like a poisonous poppy flower, emitting a fatal charm from head to toe. Mike was very curious about this young woman who had come looking for him. If she hadn't told him that Li Wei would escape with a sum of money, they would have lost a huge sum of money. He raised his eyebrows and said, Miss, other than the 200,000 that Li Wei brought, he still owes us 300,000. Do you really intend to pay this debt on his behalf? Ji Yuqi said indifferently, I can give you the 300,000, but I have 3 requests. Please speak. Firstly, I don't want a second person to know of my existence. Secondly, let go of Wang Xiufang and her daughter. Thirdly, cripple Li Wei's hands. Being able to run a casino, Mike naturally wasn't a mediocre person. He could tell that the other party had a strong background and had no intention of offending her. In this line of work, it was always better to have more friends than more enemies. Therefore, he agreed to Ji Yuqi's conditions without hesitation. Before coming out of the surveillance room, Ji Yuqi heard Li Wei's painful screams. She raised her eyebrows coldly and left without a change in her expression. This street was the most chaotic place in Ning City. Crooks mixed in with honest folk, and underground casinos were everywhere. Many hooligans gathered at the streets and stared at the passers-by with ill intentions. Occasionally, a few hooligans would whistle at the girls or approach them to strike up a conversation. The girls would be so frightened that they would run away hurriedly. Ji Yuqi ignored them and walked forward leisurely. However, after walking for less than 100 meters, she heard a familiar voice coming from the corner. "Cece, don't bother about me. Run." Ji Yuqi's heart skipped a beat. It was Ahan. Judging from his voice, he seemed to be in pain. Could he be injured? Her face darkened, and she quickly walked to the corner. In a dark corner, 4 strong men surrounded a young man. The young man's handsome face was full of scars and his clothes were stained with blood. He looked at the enemy with fierce eyes vigilantly, protecting the girl behind him. Although the girl was afraid, she was more grateful and worried for the young man. She shook her head and stubbornly said, "No, Ahan, I won't go. Even if I die, I want to die with you." The corner of Ji Yuqi's mouth twitched. "That lady called Cece, please wake up. Do you think you're filming a drama? Instead of running away and calling the police for help, you're holding Ahan back. Are you really doing this for his own good?" However, Ji Yunhan did not think so. He was very happy that Cece was willing to live and die with him. This gave him a great sense of happiness. Fortunately, Ji Yuqi did not know what he was thinking. Otherwise, she would definitely knock his head open and see what was inside. "Stupid girl, tell us where Lu Ming is. Otherwise, I'll let the 2 of you die here." A fierce-looking man attacked Ji Yunhan and said fiercely, "I told you, I don't know. What do you want?" Lu Cece was anxious and angry. She angrily glared and swung her bag at the people who grabbed her. "Humph, the son pays the father's debts. Since you don't know where your father is, you'll pay for him." The leader of the men had just finished speaking when his face was punched by Ji Yunhan. He was burning with anger and no longer took it lightly. He angrily said, "Brothers, beat this brat to death." The man spat a mouthful of blood on the ground. His fierce punches were fatal. His pair of small eyes were full of viciousness. "Stupid brat, since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." The 4 men rushed at Ji Yunhan at the same time. Ji Yunhan's handsome face was scarred. His expression was cold and solemn. His whole body exploded with a fierce aura. He actually managed to withstand their fatal attacks. However, he was still young and did not have enough combat experience. He also had to protect Lu Cece. Soon, under the pincer attack of the 4 men, he showed signs of weakness. Just as the 4 men rushed forward and planned to subdue Ji Yunhan, an ear-piercing police siren sounded. F***CK, the police are here. Retreat. The group of thugs left Ji Yunhan and Lu Cece behind and hurriedly fled. Anyway, they had achieved their goal. There was no need to stay here and be arrested by the police. The hurried and chaotic footsteps gradually faded away. Ji Yuqi came out from behind the wall and turned off the alarm on her phone. In fact, there was no police at all. She had just downloaded a police siren and played it on her phone. The group of people had already gone far away. Ji Yuqi still had no intention of showing up. It was not that she was not worried about Ahan's injury, but she wanted to secretly observe what kind of girl Lu Cece was. She wanted to see if she was worthy of her brother's love. "Ahan, how are you? Is it very painful?" In the corner, Lu Cece anxiously grabbed Ji Yunhan's arm. Her voice trembled with panic and guilt. "It's all my fault. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't be injured." Lu Cece's clear black and white eyes were covered with mist. Her pink lips were left with traces of blood because she had bitten her teeth too hard. Ji Yunhan looked at her enduring the pain and felt very distressed. He had long forgotten the pain in his body. He softly comforted her, "Cece, this is not your fault. Your father's gambling debt has nothing to do with you. You must not blame yourself. Ahan, don't be so good to me. I'm not worth it." Lu Cece held back her tears and did not let them fall. Her strength, in Ji Yunhan's eyes, made him feel even more distressed. "You're worth it. You're a good girl. I like you." These words were still too embarrassing to say out loud. Ji Yunhan's ears were dyed with a touch of red. He uncomfortably avoided Lu Cici's clear eyes, coughed awkwardly, and changed the topic. Cici, I'll take you home. Lu Cici tiptoed and carefully brushed Ji Yunhan's short hair away from his forehead. Her bright eyes were filled with distress. Ahan, don't worry about me in the future. Those people, they won't let me go. I don't want to implicate you. Ji Yunhan's pupils suddenly shrank and his face became ugly. He said in a deep voice, Cici, in your heart, am I, Ji Yunhan, that kind of timid person? No, Lu Cici quickly shook her head. You misunderstood. I just don't want you to get hurt. Ji Yunhan's heart warmed, and he couldn't help but grin. I'm not afraid. Don't worry, I'll protect you. Although his cheeks were bruised, he was still as handsome and charming when he smiled. His bright smile was like the sun, shining into Lu Cici's cold heart, making her want to get closer to him. She raised her face, and her bright and clean face bloomed with a gentle smile. Thank you, Ahan. Lu Cici would never forget that in the spring of her 16th year, there was a young man who pulled her out of the darkness of her life. It turned out that she could also have sunshine. But, was a girl of her status worthy of it? The young man and woman left hand in hand. The setting sun elongated their shadows. Ji Yuchi wrapped her arms around her shoulders and leaned against the wall, watching their backs disappear into the distance. Her enchanting phoenix eyes glowed with a playful light. Lu Cici, this girl wasn't simple at all. If it wasn't for the cold eyes of a bystander and staying out of the matter, even Ji Yuchi would find it difficult to find anything suspicious about her. Lu Cici proposed to send Ji Yunhan to the hospital, but Ji Yunhan didn't want to go. He knew that his injuries were all superficial and nothing serious. Lu Cici couldn't persuade him, so she could only give up. Ji Yunhan sent Lu Cici home with a face full of wounds. This was the slum area, and the house was particularly simple. Lu Cici and her sickly mother lived in 2 small rooms. She was a little embarrassed to invite Ji Yunhan into the house. Ji Yunhan didn't mind at all, and swaggered into the other's room. He even politely greeted Lu Cici's mother, Wang Xuemei. Auntie, my name is Ji Yunhan. I'm Cici's classmate. Wang Xuemei was wearing plain clothes, and was cooking in the kitchen. Seeing her daughter bringing her classmate home, she nervously wiped her hands, and a smile appeared on her face. Come and sit. Our house is too simple and crude. We've made a fool of ourselves in front of you. Auntie, you're too polite. Ji Yunhan politely greeted Wang Xuemei. From his words and actions, there was only respect and no contempt. Lu Cici was moved by Ji Yunhan's thoughtfulness, and the way she looked at him became more gentle. She pursed her lips and said, Mom, Ahan was injured in order to save me. Is there any medicine at home? I'll help him deal with the wound. As soon as Ji Yunhan entered the door, Wang Xuemei saw the wound on his face. She was too embarrassed to ask how he got it. She didn't expect that he was injured in order to save her daughter. She immediately understood what was going on and quickly said, Yes, it's in the TV cabinet. There's alcohol and trauma medicine. Ji Yunhan embarrassedly scratched his head. No need to trouble yourself. It's just a superficial wound. It's okay. Of course. If the wound is not dealt with, it may become inflamed and leave a scar. Wang Xuemei was very enthusiastic. One moment, she made tea for Ji Yunhan, and the next moment, she cut fruits for him. This made Ji Yunhan feel very embarrassed. Lu Cici helped him apply the medicine. Her movements were very gentle. He looked at her focused look, and his heart was as sweet as honey. After dealing with the wound, Wang Xuemei had already put the food on the table. Although it was just a simple home-cooked meal, the taste was very good. It seemed that she had put a lot of effort into it. Ji Yunhan's appetite was great, and he ate 2 big bowls of rice. After the meal, Lu Cici wanted to help wash the dishes, but Wang Xuemei drove her away and asked her to accompany Ji Yunhan. Ji Yunhan saw that it was getting late, so he didn't want to stay any longer. He said goodbye, and Wang Shuamei asked Lu Sisi to send him out of the alley. The two of them walked in the narrow alley, and Ji Yunhan said, "Sisi, your mother is so nice." Ever since his mother passed away, he had never felt maternal love again. Chen Tingfang seemed to be very nice to him, but in reality, she was harboring evil intentions. Of course, he couldn't treat her as his mother, and he couldn't feel maternal love from her. Lu Sisi knew about his family situation. She looked up at his arrogant profile and hesitated for a bit. In the end, she held his right hand and expressed her concern with her actions. She knew that sometimes, words were useless. Gentle and considerate actions could enter the other party's heart. Their fingers touched. His fingers stiffened, and his footsteps also stiffened. She suddenly felt timid, and just as she was about to withdraw her hand, he held it tightly. The Ji family's villa was dark. A dark shadow walked along the living room corridor and went upstairs. Just as he reached the stairs, the lights in the corridor suddenly turned on. Awesome novel, Songshu 566. Chapter 818. Ji Yunhan was startled by the sudden light. Just as he was about to hurry back to his room, Ji Yuqi opened the door and walked out in her pajamas. He laughed dryly. "Sis, it's so late. Why haven't you slept yet?" Ji Yuqi didn't say a word. Her eyes were burning as she sized up the scars on his face. He quickly avoided her gaze and scratched his head uncomfortably. He stammered as he explained, "I met a few bad guys in the afternoon. I fought with them." Ji Yuqi didn't expose his lie. She stuffed a tube of ointment into his hand and said lightly, "Apply it twice a day. Don't let the wound get wet. If Dad asks, just say that you fell down yourself. Don't let him worry." "Sis." Ji Yunhan suddenly raised his head. His eyes were filled with complex emotions. He lied to his sister. Not only did she not scold him, she even helped him cover it up. He suddenly felt very guilty. How could Ji Yuqi not know what he was thinking? She helplessly pulled the corner of her lips. She reached out and rubbed his head. She said meaningfully, "Ahan, I believe that you have grown up. You know what to do and what not to do. If you encounter any trouble, you can tell me." Under her gentle gaze, Ji Yunhan had the urge to confide in her. He wanted to tell her everything. However, the moment he opened his mouth, Lu Sisi's sweet smile flashed across his mind. He clenched his fists and suppressed the urge. He couldn't say that he promised Sisi that he wouldn't tell anyone about her. He had to keep his promise. "Sis, I'm fine. I really just fought with someone. It's getting late. You should rest early." Ji Yunhan threw down these words. He didn't dare to look into Ji Yuqi's eyes again and hurriedly went into his room. Ji Yuqi's eyes darkened when she saw him running away. She was a little disappointed and felt an indescribable sense of loss. Her brother had finally grown up and had someone he wanted to protect. In fact, this was also good. She couldn't protect him for a lifetime. He needed to experience the bitterness and sweetness of growing up, pain and joy, as well as the sweetness and betrayal of love. Although Ji Yuqi didn't intervene in the matter between Ahan and Lu Sisi, it didn't mean that she didn't care. She looked for Liang Yu to investigate Lu Sisi's situation and found out that Lu Sisi was Ahan's classmate. She had a gambling addict father who owed a lot of money to loan sharks. Her father abandoned her and her mother, Wang Shuamei, and ran away. Since then, the mother and daughter were often harassed by loan sharks. Wang Shuamei's health wasn't good. She relied on a cleaning job to support herself and her daughter. How could she have spare money to pay off the debt? Lu Sisi was very sensible. In order to pay off the debt as soon as possible, she worked in a bar every day after school without telling her mother. All the money she earned was taken away by those vampire-like debt collectors. In this way, their family's debt kept piling up and Lu Sisi was almost forced into a desperate situation. Seeing this information, Ji Yuqi's ice-cold heart didn't fluctuate much. Other than some sympathy, there was nothing else. She wasn't a saint. She didn't have the ability to save everyone who was suffering. She only wanted to protect the people she cared about. A pitiful person must have a hateful side. If this Lu Cece wanted to hurt Ahan, Ji Yuchi wouldn't let her have it easy. The relationship between a young man and a young woman was always beautiful. Ever since Ji Yunhan held Lu Cece's hand that night, the atmosphere between the two of them changed. Although there was no explicit confession, the two of them got along like an ordinary young couple. Ji Yunhan would wait outside Lu Cece's house every morning and take her to school on his bicycle. She would sit on the back seat of the bicycle and hug his waist. She would softly tell him the interesting things that happened in school. Their laughter drifted along the way. That evening, Ji Yunhan planned to take Lu Cece home as usual. Lu Cece held her school bag in one hand and looked at him with a pair of big watery eyes. She wanted to say something but stopped. Ji Yunhan smiled and asked, "What's the matter?" Lu Cece bit her bright red lips and mustered up her courage to say, "Ahan, actually, I used to work in a shop after school. I was afraid that you would be unhappy, so I asked the boss for leave and didn't go to work. But today, the boss called and said that if I didn't go to work, he would fire me. Ahan, I really need this job. Will you look down on me?" Her big beautiful eyes were filled with uneasiness. Her fingers tightly gripped the strap of her school bag and she kept a distance from him, as if she would leave him at any time. Ji Yunhan felt pity for her. This silly girl. He was her boyfriend. How could he look down on her because of that? Instead, he loved her even more because of her independence and strength. He smiled and took the school bag from her hands. He held her hand and got on the bicycle. "Aren't you going to work?" "I'll take you." Lu Cece's eyes widened in disbelief. Soon, a bright smile bloomed on her beautiful face. "Okay." When Ji Yunhan followed her instructions and rode his bike to the place where she worked, his face instantly darkened. He stared at Lu Cece's timid, watery eyes and gritted his teeth. "This is where you work? A bar?" He was a good boy who kept himself clean. He had never been to a place like this before, but that didn't mean that he didn't know how dirty it was. In the past, rich kids would often boast in his ears that they would pick up girls in bars for a night and so on. He could almost imagine how many hungry wolves would covet a beautiful girl like Cece working in such a place. Lu Cece's eyes reddened. Her delicate body was like a leaf in the autumn wind. She trembled slightly. "Why, you really look down on me, don't you?" Ji Yunhan's chest tightened. He had nowhere to vent his anger. With a dark face, he angrily said, "Of course not. I'm just worried about you. This kind of place has crooks mixed in with honest folks. Who knows if there might be people who have designs on you." Lu Cece's tears turned into a smile. Her bright smile was like the sun breaking through the dark clouds. It was dazzlingly beautiful. "Ahan, don't worry. This bar is very formal. It's not what you think. I'm just a little girl who serves tea. They won't do anything to me. I've worked here for several months and I've never met anyone who has designs on me." Although she said that, Ji Yunhan was still worried. He thought for a moment and said, "Cece, why don't you resign? I've saved up a sum of money. Although it's not enough to pay off my gambling debts, it's enough to buy some time so that those people won't bother you." Although his family was rich, his father was very strict with their pocket money. There was a limit every month to prevent them from developing a bad habit of spending money. He had already made up his mind. First, he would stabilize the loan sharks. Then, he would ask his sister to borrow some money to start a small business and make money to pay off Cece's debts. Lu Cece bit her lips. Her bones were filled with arrogance. She firmly looked at Ji Yunhan's eager eyes. "Ahan, I know you're doing this for my own good. I'm very grateful. But I can't take your money. Although I'm poor, I still have my self-esteem. If I take your money, I'm no longer worthy to be your girlfriend. Ahan, if you really want to help me, please support my decision." Ji Yunhan was speechless for a moment. He understood her self-esteem and her pride. But he was her boyfriend. Shouldn't he help her? Lu Cece could see his sadness. She hugged his arm and pouted. "Ahan, are you angry? Don't be angry with me, okay?" Ji Yunhan sighed silently. Facing her big, watery eyes and charming, smiling face, even if his stomach was full of resentment, it vanished like smoke into thin air. All that remained was a deep sense of pity. He rubbed her hair and smiled bitterly. "All right, I've lost to you. I don't have to quit my job, but I have to accompany you to work every day." She wailed, "Ah, no way. Boss will have a problem with that." Ji Yunhan smiled like a big fox trying to act cute. "I don't care. Anyway, I'm going to follow you." She shook his arm and called out pitifully, "Ahan," his eyes curved. "It's no use acting coquettishly. Cece, it's getting late. Shouldn't you go to work?" From then on, there was a new regular in the bar. He was a handsome boy who was especially eye-catching in a group of adults. He never drank and would always order a glass of fruit juice and sit in a corner. He was distant and polite to people who came up to him. His focused gaze only fell on a waitress, and all his emotions were affected by her. Lu Cece knew that Ji Yunhan had been watching her. She was used to being followed by his scorching gaze wherever she went. Occasionally, she would turn back and smile in his direction. The two of them were separated by a distance, but their hearts seemed to be linked as they smiled at each other. A man who spoiled the scene suddenly barged into the beautiful scene. He was dressed in a white collar and was well dressed. He grabbed Lu Cece's wrist, his fingers caressing her fair and delicate skin. The smile on his face was ambiguous and wretched. "Little girl, how old are you? Why are you working at such a young age?" Lu Cece's cheeks were red. She struggled to pull her hand away. "Sir, please show some respect. Little girl, don't be so rigid. If you're willing to be my girlfriend, I can let you enter my company. The salary will definitely be higher than now." The gentle-looking man's grip was especially strong. He pulled Lu Cece into his arms and whispered in her ear. They were like a pair of infatuated lovers. After all, Lu Cece was young and didn't have enough strength. She was imprisoned in his arms and couldn't break free. She was so anxious that her eyes were red and tears were about to fall. Just when she was at a loss, a handsome figure suddenly appeared and punched the man in the face. "Let go of her, you bastard." Ji Yunhan's handsome face was full of anger. His eyes were burning with anger. He couldn't wait to skin the man who bullied Lu Cece. The gentle-looking man was in pain and subconsciously let go of Lu Cece. Lu Cece's face was full of tears. She threw herself into Ji Yunhan's arms. "Ahan. It's okay. I'm here. I won't let anyone hurt you." Ji Yunhan hugged Lu Cece and patted her back. He glared at the man who was covering his cheek and said fiercely, "Open your dog eyes and look carefully. Cece is my girlfriend. I'm warning you, don't have any ideas about her in the future. Otherwise, I'll beat you up every time I see you." Beauty novel, Shinwoo 799. Chapter 819. The man was taken aback by Sumo's ferocious gaze, but he quickly broke into a smile. "It's a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. Little brother, if I had known earlier that this young lady was your girlfriend, I wouldn't have been so rude to her." Ji Yunhan snorted coldly. He hugged Lu Cece and turned to leave, no longer paying attention to the sanctimonious guy. After such an incident, Lu Cece lost control of her emotions and was not in the mood to go to work. Her boss was also very kind and did not force her to leave. He let her leave early to have a good rest and adjust her mood. Ji Yunhan was very annoyed. He wanted to force Lu Cece to resign, but when he saw her teary little face and anxious eyes, his heart softened. He could only comfort himself that today's incident was just an accident, and he would be more careful to protect her in the future. The next day, Ji Yunhan accompanied Lu Cece to work as usual. He sat at the position with the best view, so he could always pay attention to Lu Cici's movements. He put all his attention on her and did not notice that someone was looking at him from behind. At a table not far from Ji Yunhan, 3 men sat in a circle. One of them, a young man with dyed blonde hair, lowered his voice and said, "Brother Zhe, is it that brat?" The man called Brother Zhe was the gentleman who took liberties with Lu Cici last night. He had a gentle smile on his handsome face, but his eyes were malicious and ruthless. "It's him. After fishing for so long, we can finally pull the line tonight." Another handsome man with a pair of peach blossom eyes raised his eyebrows and smiled slyly like a fox. "Tonight, we'll let that brat have a taste of our methods. Sigh, that's the most beautiful girl in Yiqingcheng. He got lucky." Su Zhe narrowed his eyes and smiled. His eyes were terrifyingly cold as if they were dipped in poison. His voice was low and hoarse. "We want him to be drunk and never want to wake up again." As the saying goes, the mantis catches the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. While the 3 of them were discussing how to deal with Ji Yunhan, in the monitoring room on the 2nd floor, an incomparably handsome man was listening to their plan. The 3 fools didn't know that someone had planted a bug under the table they were sitting at. Shenji's long and narrow eyes were as dark as the sea, and his handsome face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost. His slender fingers lightly tapped on the table, and his voice was cold. "Liang Yu," informed Qi Qi. Liang Yu, who was standing behind him, respectfully replied, "Yes." He left the room and called Ji Yuqi. These days, he had been following her orders and following Ji Yunhan and Lu Cici, reporting their situation to her in a timely manner. However, he didn't expect that his boss would be interested as well and interfere. It seemed like their boss was deeply in love with Miss Ji. He was always thinking about her, but he didn't want her to know how much effort he had put in behind her back. Only Shen Zhe and Zhe were left in the monitoring room. Zhe said expressionlessly, "Young master, if you help solve this, you will win the favor of your future brother-in-law." Shen Zhe's charming almond-shaped eyes softened, and he said lightly, "Qi Qi prefers to do things herself. He wouldn't do things that she didn't like. Moreover, he loved Qi Qi. What did it have to do with others?" That tenderness flashed by so quickly that Zhe thought he was seeing things. Zhe's face was wooden as he complained in his heart, "Young master, is it really okay for you to be so henpecked? Miss Ji, your brother is in trouble. Hurry and come to the night charming bar." Ji Yuqi was coming out of the library when she received Liang Yu's call. When she heard his words, her heart almost stopped beating. She said anxiously, "Tell me clearly, what happened to my brother?" "The person who flirted with Lu Cici last night is called Su Zhe. He's a young master from a small gang. He found a few people to deal with your brother." Liang Yu explained briefly, then urged Ji Yuqi to hurry over. Ji Yuqi grabbed her handbag with one hand and ran around the campus without caring about her image. Her mind was spinning quickly. She was worried about Ji Yunhan's safety, and at the same time, she was analyzing Lu Cici's role in this matter. Was it her? Was she the one who wanted to harm Ahan? Yuqi, just as Ji Yuqi was running for her life, a tall and strong figure blocked her way. Tang Feng was wearing a black suit. He was tall and handsome, like a pine tree standing proudly. He exuded an intimidating aura. His dark eyes were fixed on Ji Yuqi, and there were complicated emotions surging in his eyes. He seemed to be anxious and passionate at the same time. He stood in front of her and had no intention of avoiding her. Ji Yuqi had no choice but to stop running. She stared at him expressionlessly. "What's the matter?" This was the first time the 2 of them had met after the birthday party. She was like a delicate iris flower, rushing into his sight. At that moment, his gloomy mood because of Yi Zisu's deception suddenly brightened. He suddenly realized that he couldn't forget the prostitute who used to follow him around when he was young. He couldn't bear to let go of his past feelings for her. But now, the little girl who called him Brother Tang Feng was gone. Standing in front of him was a cold and distant woman. He was the one who had destroyed their friendship. Tang Feng's heart throbbed with pain. His deep eyes revealed an indescribable pain. He took a step towards her, his voice low and filled with anticipation. Chi-Chi, let's start over. Ji Yuqi looked at his handsome face calmly. Her heart was beating steadily in her chest. The throbbing of the past had long been erased. The feelings between them had also been buried. She shook her head and said calmly, "It's too late." These 3 short words were like a heavy hammer that smashed heavily on Tang Feng's chest. His handsome face instantly turned pale. It was too late. Had they already missed each other? No, it couldn't be. Chi-Chi liked him. She was just acting out of spite, just like when they were young. Ji Yuqi brushed past him. He suddenly reached out and grabbed her arm. His palm was as hot as iron and pressed against her skin. His voice was firm. Chi-Chi, you're mine. I won't let you run away. Ji Yuqi frowned. She had to rush to the bar and didn't have time to waste with him. Without hesitation, she grabbed his hand and pushed him away. Tang Feng, if there's nothing else, I'll leave first. Ji Yuqi pushed her handbag onto her shoulder and left without looking back. She didn't see the pain in the eyes of the person behind her. Chi-Chi, you're just acting out of spite with Big Brother Tang Feng, aren't you? Chi-Chi, when your anger subsides, you'll still return to Big Brother Tang Feng's side, right? Nightfall Bar, just like its name, was a nightfall. Young people indulged in their own happiness and burned their youth. They lived a life of drunkenness and luxury. There was only one handsome young man who was an exception. His eyes were clear and there was a smile on his lips. He looked at his beloved girl from afar. His smile was clean and warm, causing many lonely people to cast ambiguous glances at him. A handsome and refined man was holding a glass of wine. He sat opposite the young man with a smile on his face and said cheerfully, "Little brother, what a coincidence. We meet again." Ji Yunhan looked at the man in front of him clearly. It was the man who had bad intentions towards Cece last night. He frowned in disgust and said, "Why is it you again?" Suja smiled sincerely, "Little brother, my name is Suja. I'm here to apologize to you. It was my fault last night. You're a magnanimous person, please don't hold it against me. Come, let me propose a toast to you. Please forgive me for my rudeness last night." Suja picked up the glass and drank it in one gulp. He was full of pride and his eyes were sincere. Although Ji Yunhan didn't like his frivolous behavior, it was better to have one more friend than one more enemy. Moreover, if he was on good terms with Suja, he wouldn't be able to make things difficult for Cece in the future. Thinking of this, Ji Yunhan picked up the juice he had ordered and said politely, "Brother Su, I don't drink alcohol. I'll have this glass of juice instead. Please take care of Cece for my sake in the future." Of course, of course. I, Suja, don't have much, but I have a lot of friends. Little brother, don't worry. I'm sure no one will dare to bully your little girlfriend in the future. Suja looked gentle and refined, but his every movement was full of heroic spirit. He was like a hero of the underworld. He patted his chest loudly and Ji Yunhan was bewitched by his heroic actions. He tilted his head back and gulped down the entire glass of juice. The glass of juice went down Ji Yunhan's throat without leaving a single drop. Suja's eyes flashed with malice. He had added something to the juice when Ji Yunhan wasn't paying attention. It wouldn't take long for the drug to take effect. He calculated in his heart, but the smile on his face became brighter and brighter. He flattered, "Little brother, you're really generous. I, Suja, didn't misjudge you." The two of them chatted more and more happily. Unknowingly, 2 of Suja's friends had joined them at the table. Ji Yunhan was in high spirits and didn't pay attention to them. 10 minutes later, he suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. His head was dizzy and the shadows in front of him blurred. He held his forehead with one hand and his eyes were in a daze. His body swayed and he almost fell onto the table. Suja hurriedly supported his shoulders and asked worriedly, "Little brother Ji, are you okay?" Are you feeling unwell? The shadows in front of him became more and more blurred. Ji Yunhan shook his head hard and tried to wake up, but his head was even dizzier. He leaned on Suja's shoulder and murmured incoherently, "Cece, take care of Cece." The blonde boy sneered, "What a sentimental man. He's already in this state and he still can't forget that wretched girl." Suja glanced at him, his cold eyes full of warning. The blonde boy immediately stopped talking and smiled, "Brother Zhe, there are too many people here. Let's hurry up and get him out of here." Suja and the blonde-haired man carried Ji Yunhan and walked out of the bar. Another man with peach blossom eyes walked in front to clear the way. Lu Cece saw the four of them leaving and subconsciously took a step forward to chase after them. But in the next moment, her movements froze. Her face was pale and her fingers dug deep into her palms. Her misty eyes were full of hatred. Suja and the other two men brought Ji Yunhan to the hotel opposite the bar. They booked a room under his name and threw him onto a ridiculously large bed. A beautiful woman wearing a spaghetti-strap dress, perfume and light makeup walked into the room. She threw a flirtatious glance at Suja and said coquettishly, "Brother Zhe, won't let you down." Suja touched her soft cheeks with satisfaction, "Very good. I'll leave this boy to you. Train him well." Attention, Songshu 566. Chapter 820. Ji Yunhan laid on the bed without any resistance. Although he was in a daze, he managed to stay conscious due to his strong willpower. That was why he was able to hear their conversation. He finally understood that Suja was the one who had caused him to become like this. He hated himself for being so careless and falling into their trap so easily. Cece, would they harm Cece? Thinking of this, Ji Yunhan could no longer remain calm. He struggled with all his might, wanting to crawl up. However, his body was weak and he didn't have the slightest bit of strength. He was anxious and angry. The blood in his chest roiled, and a fishy sweet taste rose up in his throat. "Little brother, don't be so agitated. I'll help you regain your strength soon. I don't like dead fish." Yao Mei's slender and fair fingers landed on Ji Yunhan's handsome face. She caressed it gently as if it was precious porcelain. Such a youthful and energetic face, it was really enviable. Ji Yunhan was disgusted by her venomous gaze. He didn't have the strength to shake off her disgusting hand. He could only move his head away to avoid her fingers. She chuckled and reluctantly retracted her hand. She took out a syringe from her bag and lifted his shirt. She giggled, "The things in this syringe are enough to make you want to die. Little brother, don't be afraid. You'll like it." Ji Yunhan forcefully bit the tip of his tongue. The taste of blood filled his mouth, causing him to instantly sober up. He lifted his powerless right leg and used all his strength to kick Yao Mei's body. Yao Mei was momentarily caught off guard and was kicked to the floor. The syringe in her hand also fell to the ground. Her gentle smile instantly changed color and her beautiful cheeks twisted in anger. "You damned brat. See if I don't properly deal with you." She picked up the syringe and elegantly tidied her messy hair. She walked towards Ji Yunhan. The moment she stabbed the syringe into Ji Yunhan's arm, the door was kicked open. She turned around in surprise and saw a red object flying towards her head at an extremely fast speed. Before she could react, the object had already hit her forehead. Blood immediately flowed out. Her vision turned black and her body softly fell to the ground. Ji Yuqi stood at the door. Seeing that although Ji Yunhan was in a sorry state, his clothes were still intact, she finally breathed a sigh of relief. Her cold gaze quickly scanned the room, and she found a camera in the corner of the ceiling. Her expression became increasingly cold, and she quickly took off her jacket and threw it at the camera. She hung it on the lens, blocking the view of the people hiding behind the camera. She walked to Ji Yunhan's side and saw the syringe in his arm. Her pupils suddenly shrank and her heart almost stopped beating. It wasn't until she confirmed that the liquid in the syringe wasn't injected into his body that she relaxed her tense body. She removed the syringe from his arm and casually placed it in her trouser pocket. She wanted to keep it to test what was inside. She patted his cheek hard. "Uh-huh." Ji Yunhan seemed to hear a familiar voice. He tried his best to open his eyes and wanted to speak, but he didn't have the strength. He could only make muffled noises. Ji Yuqi guessed that he was drugged and hadn't recovered yet. She pulled him up and carried him on her shoulder. Before she left, she didn't forget to pick up the weapon that attacked Yao Mei, her purse. Finally, she hid in the camera's blind spot and removed her jacket from the camera to cover her and Ji Yunhan. After Ji Yuqi carried Ji Yunhan away, the few people sitting in the hotel surveillance room realized that something was wrong. They had already prepared to record a video of Yao Mei, and Ji Yunhan having sex. They didn't expect that the surveillance camera would be covered by something. They thought that Yao Mei had changed her mind at the last minute and didn't want to show off in front of the camera. Suja hurriedly dialed Yao Mei's number, but no one picked up. It was only when they saw a woman carrying a man whose head and face were covered on the surveillance camera that they realized something was amiss. They couldn't see her face, and she was carrying a man whose head and face were covered. Suja was furious. He ordered his subordinates to chase after Ji Yunhan and the mysterious man while he rushed to Yao Mei's room. Yao Mei was lying on the floor with blood all over her face. Suja touched her nose to check if she was still breathing. He immediately called for an ambulance. He still had a use for this woman's life. After all, she was the only one who had seen clearly who had taken Ji Yunhan away. Ji Yuqi didn't wait for Suja's men to catch up with her. She was already in a black car. The driver was Liang Yu, the private investigator she had hired. Liang Yu was a smart person. He never asked too many questions and didn't act on his own accord. He looked at Ji Yuqi's pale face from the rearview mirror and asked, Miss, where are we going now?" "We're going to the hospital." Ahan was drugged. Ji Yuqi recalled the scene she had just seen. She couldn't suppress the fear in her heart. The syringe was definitely not something good. If she had come a few minutes later, Ahan would have been ruined by that woman. This was Chen Tingfang's trap. She wanted to push Ahan into hell. Her fingers trembled slightly and her heart was beating rapidly. The hatred in her heart was like a monstrous flood that was about to drown her rationality. In her previous life, she didn't know what had happened to Ahan. Why did he suddenly become rebellious and refuse to go to school? Now, she vaguely understood that Ahan must have suffered inhumane torture. He must have suffered great pain and had no choice but to walk into the dark abyss. She felt a lump in her throat and held Ji Yunhan's hand tightly. She didn't dare to let go. Once she let go, she would never be able to see him again. "Sister." She heard a hoarse and weak voice. "Ahan, you're awake." Ji Yuqi tried her best to suppress her negative emotions and helped him to sit more comfortably. Her voice was full of worry. "Ahan, are you still feeling unwell?" Ji Yunhan looked at her in a daze for a long time. The confusion in his eyes gradually disappeared and his mind became clear. He tried to move his limbs. The effect of the drug must have worn off. He hurriedly sat up and said anxiously, "Sister, I suspect that Suja and the others are going to harm Cece. Let's hurry back to Glamorous Night Bar. I have to save her." Ji Yuqi looked at her silly brother with a complicated expression. She wanted to tell him the truth, but in the end, she didn't say it. Some things had to be seen with his own eyes before he would believe it. "Okay, let's go save her." Ji Yuqi asked Liang Yu to turn around and return to Glamorous Night Bar. The bar was bustling with noise and people were dancing on the dance floor. Ji Yuqi led Ji Yunhan through the crowd. They searched everywhere for Lu Cece's whereabouts, but they couldn't find her. Ji Yunhan anxiously grabbed Lu Cece's close colleague and asked anxiously, "Xiao Ding, do you know where Cece went?" Xiao Ding was confused. "Didn't Cece go to look for you? When did she go out?" Ji Yunhan was about to go crazy. Suja and the others must have used his name to trick Cece into going out. "I think it was about 10 minutes ago, before Xiao Ding could finish his sentence, Ji Yunhan had already run away like a gust of wind. Ji Yuqi looked at his manic back and sighed helplessly. Just as Ji Yunhan was searching for Lu Cici's whereabouts like a headless fly, Liang Yu received a message from his boss, asking him to lead Ji Yuqi and Ji Yunhan to the alley behind the bar. There must be a good show going on in the alley. The corners of Liang Yu's lips curled up. His eyes, hidden behind his glasses, quickly flashed with a glimmer of light. Liang Yu quietly approached Ji Yuqi and whispered a few words in her ear. Ji Yuqi frowned. Something flashed through her mind so quickly that she couldn't catch it. Unfortunately, she didn't have time to think about it. She ran in front of Ji Yunhan and grabbed his wrist. Follow me. Someone saw Lu Cici go into the alley behind the bar. In the dark alley, there was only a dim street lamp. The rubbish bins by the roadside were filled with garbage. The unpleasant smell permeated the air. The sounds of wild cats meowing were particularly clear in the night. Under the street lamp, 3 figures stood tall. 2 of them were tall and thin men, and the other was a delicate woman. One of the men seemed to be impatient. He raised his arm and slapped the woman. He said angrily, "Don't play tricks with me. Where did you take Ji Yunhan?" The woman's head was slapped to the side by the slap. Even so, her proud body didn't waver. Her voice was cold, like spring water on a snowy mountain. "I've already said that I don't know. Even if you beat me to death, I still don't know." The woman's voice was very familiar. It was Lu Cici, the woman Ji Yunhan was frantically looking for. Ji Yunhan saw that his beloved was hurt. His heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. He rushed out recklessly, but Ji Yuqi grabbed his wrist. He wanted to shout, but she covered his mouth with her other hand. She whispered in his ear, "Don't worry. Wait a little longer." Ji Yunhan was like a caged beast, frantically struggling. If it was someone else who grabbed him, he would have already beaten that person up. He didn't understand why his sister stopped him from saving Cici. He even felt the pain of being betrayed by his family. Although Ji Yuqi didn't know what he was thinking, she could guess from his conflicting emotions. She sighed silently and whispered in his ear, "Ahan, believe me. Sister won't hurt you." Ji Yunhan was stunned. Yes, this was his sister, his closest sister. How could he doubt her? He was such a jerk. His emotions were complicated, but he gradually calmed down. His brain also regained its rationality. He listened to Ji Yuqi's instructions and hid in the dark to observe the situation. On the other side, the tall, skinny man wanted to slap Lu Cici again, but he was stopped by Su Zhe. "Depeng, calm down. I believe that Cici isn't lying." Su Zhe's voice was lazy, but the coldness in his voice was enough to send chills down one's spine. He took 2 steps forward and forced Lu Cici to the wall. He lowered his head, his smiling face almost touching hers. He said in a gentle voice, "Cici, you definitely won't forget the $500,000 gambling debt. You definitely won't forget that your mother needs a large sum of money to treat her illness. Am I right?" Lu Cici leaned her back against the wall. She could feel the chill in her bones spreading from her back to her body. Su Zhe's words were like a sharp knife that pierced her heart. She clenched her fists tightly and spat out a few words with much difficulty, "I haven't forgotten." Su Zhe patted her cold cheek approvingly. His voice was light and cheerful. "Good girl, you did well. I'll treat this as an accident. Next time, if such an accident happens again, you know what I'll do." Awesome novel, Songshu 566. Chapter 821. Lu Cici lowered her head, her long eyelashes trembling. She replied blankly, "Yes. Very good." Su Zhe stroked her hair like a puppy and laughed softly. "Continue to do what you should do, don't let that kid get suspicious." She still responded blankly, "Yes." The sound of footsteps gradually faded away, only Lu Cici's shadow was left under the street lamp. She lowered her head, her thin shoulders trembling slightly. Soon, a pool of liquid gathered at the place where she was standing. Ji Yuqi retracted her gaze and released the hand that was covering Ji Yunhan's mouth. Her fingers were wet, it was Ahan's tears. After knowing that Lu Sisi had betrayed him, Ji Yunhan was like a mad beast, trying to break free from her imprisonment. She used all her strength to subdue him. Later, she felt hot tears falling on her fingers, drop by drop, as if they were falling on her heart. It was so painful, so painful. She hugged him and pressed his head on her shoulder, gently stroking his back, silently comforting him. She felt both pain and guilt in her heart. In fact, she had long found out that Lu Sisi had a motive for getting close to Ahan, but she chose to hide it because she wanted to use this cruel method to force Ahan to grow up. Ahan, don't blame me for being selfish. I just want you to understand the dangers of the world. I just want you to understand the viciousness of Chen Tingfang and her mother. Otherwise, you will never grow up. I am not omnipotent, I can't protect you completely, so you have to learn to protect yourself. Ahan, I'm sorry, I hurt your heart. In a place where Ji Yunhan couldn't see, Ji Yuqi's eyes lit up, but it quickly disappeared, like a meteor flashing in the sky. The youth's heart had been torn to shreds. One could well imagine the pain he felt. Ji Yunhan even felt that there was no point in living anymore. He curled up in a corner like his heart had died. His eyes were lifeless as he stared at the pitch-black night sky. He didn't respond to anything around him. His whole body was emitting a deathly stillness. Ji Yuqi was heartbroken. She began to wonder if she had done something wrong. After all, Ahan was still a child, she shouldn't have forced him like this. However, she didn't regret it. If she was given another chance, she would still do the same. She didn't know how to comfort him, she could only hug him tightly, call his name over and over again, telling him that he still had his father and sister, they would never betray him, would never abandon him. Her gentle whispers had a soothing magic, he was gradually surrounded by warmth. He was like a lost child, he was lying in her arms, he was suppressing his sobs, his weak sobs, like an injured animal, it made her heart ache. It's okay, Ahan. I'm here, a while later. Ji Yunhan's fluctuating emotions finally calmed down. The self-proclaimed man was crying happily on his sister's shoulder. This knowledge made his cheeks burn, and he moved his butt back embarrassedly. His voice was awkward and dry. Sand got into my eyes just now. Ji Yuqi's eyes were smiling, what an awkward silly boy. She agreed rather seriously. I know. Ji Yunhan was amused by her serious look, but he had to hold it in. He pretended to be serious and cleared his throat. Sis, let's go home. Okay. Ji Yuqi stood up, looked down at him, and stretched out her right hand in front of him. He looked up at her, he couldn't see her face clearly in the dark night, but he could imagine her gentle smile, and scenes of when he was young surfaced in his mind. Every time he fell down naughtily, his sister would stand in front of him and hold his hand. He grinned and put his hand in hers. She held it tightly, just like when they were young, and pulled him up from the ground. Sis, Thank you. Ji Yuqi laughed softly. Silly boy. The two of them walked side by side and disappeared into the alley. Ji Yunhan hesitated for the entire journey. When the car arrived at the Ji family's villa, he couldn't help but ask, Sis, did you already know? Ji Yuqi knew what he was referring to and didn't hide it from him. Do you still remember when you and Lu Sisi were surrounded by people at the casino street? At that time, I was hiding in the dark. When I saw those people attacking you, I pretended to call the police to scare them away. Ji Yunhan suddenly understood. No wonder. I was wondering why I only heard the sirens and didn't see the police. Did you play the ringtone on your phone? Ji Yuqi nodded. That's right. At that time, I noticed that Lu Sisi was making eye contact with those people. At that time, I was suspicious. After that, I hired a private investigator to investigate and found out that she had been in contact with Suja. As for Suja, you're not unfamiliar with him. His sister is called Su Yanqing. She's Yi Zhaoxian's lover. Ji Yunhan was no stranger to Yi Zhaoxian. He was Chen Tingfang's ex-husband and Yi Zisu's biological father. If Ji Yunhan still couldn't figure out who was behind this, then he wouldn't be worthy of being called a genius. His handsome face was full of anger. He gritted his teeth and said fiercely, "Chen Tingfang, that old witch is too evil. I won't let her off. Ahan, after today's incident, you should understand that we're still too weak. We won't be able to compete with Chen Tingfang. Promise me, before you have enough power to protect yourself, don't act rashly. Sis, don't worry. I won't let you down." Ji Yunhan had experienced betrayal and emotional traps. He had matured a lot in just one night. He was no longer the reckless young man he used to be. He was a man who was patient, responsible and strategic. Ji Yuqi reached out and patted his shoulder. "Ahan, I didn't tell you in advance. Are you angry with me?" Ji Yunhan smiled bitterly. "How can I not be angry? If you had told me in advance, I wouldn't have." He paused and avoided her gaze. He said awkwardly, "Although I'm angry, I don't blame you. If you had told me in advance, I might not have believed you." In fact, he had liked Lu Cece for a long time. Even if his sister had said that she was a bad girl, he wouldn't have believed her. There were many things that could only be believed after experiencing it for yourself. If he hadn't experienced this incident, he wouldn't have realized that people's hearts could be so sinister. Even though he knew that Chen Tingfang and Yi Zisu weren't good people, he couldn't have imagined that they would do such a vicious thing. Although that person had lied to him and hurt him badly, he had the courage to stand up again because he wasn't alone. He had his sister and father. They would accompany him, and he had to protect them. That night, the siblings opened up to each other and untied the knot in their hearts. Their relationship was restored to how it was before, and they were even closer. When they parted ways with the siblings, Liang Yu said that he knew a friend who could help Ji Yuqi check the contents of the syringe. Ji Yuqi thought about it. Liang Yu was someone she could trust, and she didn't have any acquaintances in this area. She handed the syringe to him and asked for his help. Liang Yu was very efficient. He called the next day. "Miss Ji, the test results are out. The syringe contains a liquid drug. After taking it, it can confuse a person's mind, causing them to be in a state of extreme excitement and do some unimaginable things. After taking it twice, it can become addictive. It's very painful when it acts up, and it's very difficult to get rid of it." Ji Yuqi's head exploded, and the blood in her body quickly turned cold. Her fingers tightly gripped the phone, trying to control the roaring demon in her heart. Her eyes were wild and bloodthirsty. "Chen Tingfang, you're so ruthless. You actually want to use a woman and drugs to treat a teenager, making him step by step into depravity and death. You vicious bitch, I'll make you wish you were dead." Ji Yuqi didn't hide it from Ji Yunhan. After telling him the results of the test, he was shocked. After the shock, there was a lingering fear. If his sister hadn't come in time, he would have been played by that disgusting woman. She would have injected him with drugs and taken a video. Then, he would have completely become a plaything in the hands of that group of people. He didn't dare to imagine himself like that. After these emotions passed through, there was only anger left. Anger toward the mastermind behind the scenes. Ji Yuqi saw his eyes full of hatred and was shocked. For revenge, it was enough for her to become a demon. She couldn't let her brother live for revenge. She held his face with both hands, looked into his eyes and smiled. "Ahan, don't let hatred blind you. You're not a machine of hatred. You're the future of the Ji family. Protect yourself and become stronger so that those people can't hurt you anymore. Ahan, promise me that you won't dirty your hands. Leave those dirty things to me. You just have to be responsible for your safety. Sister." Ji Yunhan's throat was choked with sobs. His obsidian-like eyes surged with shattered sparkles and translucent light. To him, his sister was like a ray of sunshine that cut through the darkness and shrouded him in warmth. He thought that in his life, there would never be a woman more important than his sister. Ji Yuqi frowned and said sternly, "Ahan, promise me." He clenched his fists and said, "Okay, I promise you. I promise you that I won't dirty my hands, but it doesn't mean that I'll let those people go." Ji Yuqi's brows relaxed. She stared at his reddened eyes and burst into laughter. "Ahan, did sand get into your eyes again? Do you want me to blow it for you?" Ji Yunhan's mouth twitched. He looked away and snorted. "No need. You're so long-winded. Have you entered menopause early?" Ji Yuqi laughed even louder. Ji Yunhan looked at her bright smile and couldn't help but smile. However, he quickly put on a straight face and snorted. He looked like a little brat throwing a tantrum. In the low-key and luxurious office, the huge floor-to-ceiling window was covered by a white veil. The cool spring breeze blew in through the open gap, and the soft sunlight dyed the man behind the desk with a dreamy golden color. His perfect facial features were pure and holy. His slender fingers gently tapped on the desk, and his deep eyes fell on the huge LCD screen on the wall. Although there was no expression on his handsome face, Liang Yu, who was on the other end of the screen, felt an inexplicable sense of majesty. Liang Yu coughed and put on a serious expression. He reported what he had reported to Ji Yuqi to Shinja. Finally, he said, "That's all. Young master, do you think we should deal with the Black Flame sect?" The Black Flame sect was a medium-sized sect in Ing City. It wasn't considered big, but it wasn't small either. The current leader was called Su Bingkuan. He had a daughter and a son. The daughter was called Su Yanqing and she was Yi Zhaoxian's current lover. The son, Su Zhe, was the next leader of the Black Flame sect. Although he looked gentle and refined, he was actually a wolf in sheep's clothing. Come and see. Hongcha 866. Chapter 822. Of course, Liang Yu did not ask this because he wanted to help the people, but because he was trying to figure out what Shinja was thinking. He guessed that Shinja would help Ji Yuqi in secret. But he guessed wrong this time. Shinja's eyes were calm without any ripples. His voice was clear and cold, just like a high and mighty god. No need. The Black Flame sect will be handed over to Chi-Chi for her to practice. Zhe, send 2 people to protect Chi-Chi in secret. His gaze fell on Zhe, who was standing in the corner like a block of wood. His cold gaze startled him. If she is hurt in the slightest, punish her according to the gang's rules. A crack appeared on Zhe's wooden face. Although he said yes, his heart was bleeding and crying. Young master, you've become bad. For that woman, you're going to use the gang's punishment. Sob 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 sob. Ji Yunhan pretended not to know that Lu Sisi had lied to him. The next morning, he rode his bicycle to pick her up to school as usual. Lu Sisi's eyes flashed when she saw him. She asked tentatively, "Ahan, where did you go last night? After I delivered the wine to the guests, I couldn't find you. I called you but you didn't answer. Did something happen?" Although Ji Yunhan pretended that nothing had happened on the surface, she was, after all, the girl he liked. How could he not feel uncomfortable in his heart? Faced with her hypocritical concern, that kind of discomfort was magnified several times. His fingers dug into his palms to control himself from revealing any flaws. Ahan? He did not speak. Lu Sisi panicked. Did he find out something? Ji Yunhan's deep gaze focused on her. He suppressed many of his complicated emotions. Finally, he pulled the corner of his lips and revealed a smile. I was drinking with a few friends last night and accidentally got drunk. When I woke up, I found that I was already home. It was already early in the morning. I was afraid to wake you up, so I didn't call to tell you. I'm sorry for making you worry. Lu Sisi's face bloomed into 2 bright smiles. It's good that you're okay. Oh right, how did you get home? Ji Yunhan held his forehead with one hand and thought for a while. Then, he frowned and shook his head. I can't remember. In a daze, I think someone got me into a car, or maybe I stopped a taxi myself. I really can't remember, it's okay. If you can't remember, then don't think about it. Ahan, it's getting late. Let's hurry to school. Although Lu Cece was smart, she was still young and inexperienced. She couldn't see the complicated emotions hidden deep in Ji Yunhan's eyes. She still got along with him as usual. On the same day, Ji Yunhan sent Lu Cece to work at the bar. He sat quietly in a corner with fewer people around. On the surface, he looked quiet and harmless, but in reality, his eyes flashed with the light of prey. He quietly searched for Suja and his two subordinates. Unfortunately, the three of them did not appear for the entire night. Perhaps, they were also secretly observing him, trying to find out who had saved him last night. Ji Yunhan used the action of drinking coffee to hide the sneer on his lips. After waiting for 3 nights, his prey had finally appeared. Suja saw him and revealed a happy expression. Little brother Ji, I didn't expect to see you again. We had a good chat the last time. I didn't expect you to suddenly feel dizzy and want to go home. What a disappointment. Ji Yunhan laughed heartily. Brother Su, it's my fault. I want to treat you to a drink as an apology. I don't know if the 3 of you would like to do me the honor. The blonde and peach blossom eyes were Suja's subordinates. They looked at Suja subconsciously. Suja laughed loudly. Sure, but you don't know how to drink. I can't bear the accusation of teaching a minor bad things. Ji Yunhan's handsome face flushed uncomfortably. He puffed up his cheeks and said with conviction, I'm already 16 years old. I'm considered an adult. Don't look down on me because I'm young. I can drink a lot. Brother Su, do you dare to drink with me? Suja smiled meaningfully. Why wouldn't I dare? If you can't outdrink me, you're not allowed to cry. Ji Yunhan's face turned red. He thickened his neck and said loudly, You're looking down on me. Let's see if you can still make fun of me after I drink you to the ground. After saying that, he waved his hand heroically. The bartender brought over a dozen beers and placed them on their table. Ji Yunhan took the lead and picked up the bottle cap. As he opened the bottle cap, he boasted without blushing, Just you wait. See if I don't drink all of you to the ground. The blonde and peach blossom eyes sneered, provoking Ji Yunhan at the right time. Alright, let's see what you're capable of. Suja looked at Ji Yunhan's action of opening the beer bottle with a faint smile. This kid was clumsy and had almost knocked over the beer bottle several times. It was obvious that he wasn't the type to drink. It would be better if he passed out after drinking so much, lest they drugged him again. Come on, 1 bottle each, let's drink more. Ji Yunhan handed the beer bottles to the 3 of them and took one for himself. He tilted his head back and gulped it down. Suja sighed and gave a signal to the blonde and the peach blossom eyes. The 3 of them also raised their heads and drank. Suja sighed and sighed. As Suja expected, the first one to collapse was Ji Yunhan. He was lying on the table in a daze, singing nursery rhymes and shouting, Become Ultraman. He was drunk. Suja and the other 2 weren't any better. Their eyes were blurry and their legs were weak, but their minds were still clear. Suja patted the shoulders of his subordinates and motioned for them to take Ji Yunhan away. Come, little monster, let's continue to drink. Ji Yunhan was carried on Yellowhair's shoulder. He swayed and shook his head as he staggered forward. Yellowhair felt as if his head was about to explode. He was already feeling dizzy. Now, he was being dragged and thrown to the ground by this little ancestor. He wished he could throw this little ancestor into the alley. Brat, if you continue to fool around, I'll break your arm. The yellow-haired man cursed as he dragged Ji Yunhan forward. Suddenly, he felt his vision darken and he fell to the ground with a plop. He had thrown himself forward with too much force and dragged Ji Yunhan to the ground. Blonde, what the hell are you doing? Suja was very dizzy. He took a few steps forward and fell to the ground. The last one with the peach blossom eyes wanted to help Suju up, but his body tilted and he fell to the ground. 3 seconds passed. The 4 people lying paralyzed on the ground were motionless. Suddenly, Ji Yunhan slowly stood up from Huang Mao's back. His pair of dark, cold eyes swept over the 3 people on the ground. He didn't look drunk at all. He was clearly sober. His handsome face looked strange under the dim light. He kicked Suja and the other 2 people, but they didn't move. They were like dead dogs. He sneered. He had added drugs in their beer when he opened the beer bottle. It would be strange if they didn't pass out. He picked up a wooden stick from the roadside and raised it high above Suja's head. Ji Yunhan gritted his teeth and his eyes were filled with a fierce light. He forcefully swung the wooden stick downwards. Just as it was about to land on Suja's head, a sudden force appeared and grabbed the end of the wooden stick tightly, preventing him from swinging it downwards. Who is it? He looked back warily. When he saw the person behind him, his pupils constricted and he stammered, "Sister? Why are you here?" Ji Yuchi snatched the wooden stick from his hand and threw it aside. Her delicate and beautiful face was as cold as ice. Her voice was bone-chilling. "Ji Yunhan, what did you promise me?" Just a second ago, Ji Yunhan had been like a demon with a murderous aura all over his body. In the blink of an eye, he had turned into a helpless big white rabbit. He frantically explained, "Sis, I just wanted to teach them a lesson. I won't take their lives. Really, I won't lie to you." Ji Yuchi stared at him expressionlessly. Her dark eyes were as deep as the ocean, mysterious and dangerous. She took a step forward and her oppressive aura surged towards Ji Yunhan. Her voice was filled with suppressed anger. "Teach them a lesson? You're with them. If something happens to them, you'll be the biggest suspect. Do you think they're not ruthless enough to deal with you?" Ji Yunhan shrunk his neck and laughed dryly. "Hee, sister, I've already planned for your smart brother. I've drugged their wine. Under the influence of the drug, they'll forget what happened after they got drunk. I'll beat them up and stuff a wooden stick in the hands of the blonde and Suja. I'll create the illusion that they're fighting amongst themselves after they got drunk. After that, I'll use the trick of injuring myself and pretend that I'm injured too. They won't suspect me." Deep down, Ji Yuchi felt that his method was feasible, but there was always a possibility. What if Suja and the others suspected Han and intensified their attacks on him, or even endangered his life? What should she do? She wouldn't allow any danger to exist. She was silent for 2 seconds. "Han, you should go home first. I'll take care of the rest." Ji Yunhan's expression changed and he said anxiously, "Sister, I don't want you to help me. You can't dirty your hands." Ji Yuchi laughed softly, "Silly, of course I won't dirty my hands. Don't worry, I've already planned it out." Ji Yunhan still wanted to say something, but Ji Yuchi covered his mouth. She looked at him sternly and said, "That's enough. Hurry up and go home. If you don't leave now, I'll be angry." Ji Yunhan had no choice but to leave dejectedly. Ji Yuchi glanced at the 3 people lying on the ground. She smirked and there was an indescribable coldness in her eyes. A good show was about to begin. "Hey, wake up, you stinky man. Wake up." A woman squatted in front of Suja and slapped his cheeks hard. Suja was in a daze when he felt someone slapping his face. After a while, he felt a burning pain on his face. Damn it, if he caught the person who slapped him, he would definitely dismember his arm. He opened his eyes abruptly and glared fiercely at the person in front of him. Soon, his expression changed and the muscles on his face twitched uncontrollably. F***ck, what kind of creature was this? Her eyebrows were thick and black and her mouth was painted blood red. It was as if she had just sucked blood. The thick layer of powder on her face was still falling down. Coupled with her curly hair, was she really a woman? F***ck, her chest was bulging. She was indeed a woman. This woman's taste was terrible. Sujo averted his gaze. He couldn't bear to look at the horrifying face. He glanced at the ground. His subordinates were still unconscious and Ji Yunhan was nowhere to be seen. Could it be that he had been rescued by the mysterious person again? Hundreds of thoughts flashed through his mind, but his face remained cold. Who are you? Why are you here? Welfare, Songshu 566. Chapter 823. The woman crudely rolled her eyes, raised her chin, and scolded, "What's my name? Why should I tell you? This is my only way home. If I'm not here, where else can I be? I saw you 4 dead dogs lying on the road, so I kindly woke you up. Did I do anything wrong? Get lost, I won't do any good deeds in the future." Suja's eyebrows twitched and the corners of his mouth twitched uncontrollably. He was sure that this vulgar and tasteless woman must be a prostitute. She exuded a vulgar aura from head to toe. He calmed down and grasped the main point of her words. He said coldly, "You said that when you came, there were 4 of us. You said that when you came, there were 4 of us? Where is the other person now?" The woman rolled her eyes impatiently. Where else could he have gone? I woke him up and stuffed him into a taxi. That bastard didn't have a single cent on him. I wasted more than $50 on the taxi fare. Hey, you're with him, aren't you? Hurry up and return the taxi fare to me. After she finished speaking, she stretched out her hand to ask for the taxi fare. Her long and fair fingers were the most attractive part of her body. Suja was extremely irritated. He blamed this woman for being nosy. It wasn't easy to get Ji Yunhan drunk, but he didn't expect her to let him go. He didn't need to be polite to a woman who was at the bottom of society. He glared at her murderously and said coldly, "Get lost. If you don't get lost, don't blame me for being rude." The woman was so angry that she stomped her feet. "You heartless and unscrupulous thing, I saved you, and you dare to talk to me like that? This is the territory of the Black Flame sect, and I have paid the protection fee. Do you believe that I will call the people of the Black Flame sect to chop you up?" After the effects of the drug wore off, the yellow-haired man and the peach blossom eyes slowly woke up. They heard the woman's angry roar. The yellow-haired man was still a little confused. He scratched his head foolishly and asked, "Brother Zhe, this woman is crazy. She dares to call the brothers in the sect to kill us?" The veins on Suja's forehead throbbed. He glared at the yellow-haired man and said, "Shut up." Then his gaze fell on the woman. He gritted his teeth and said, "I'll give you 3 seconds. Hurry up and get lost. Otherwise, don't even think about staying in this area in the future." The woman was shocked by Suja's fierce expression, but she still stiffened her neck and looked like she was not to be outdone. "Who are you? Why are you so arrogant?" Suja said darkly, "I'm in charge of this area. Who do you think I am?" The woman's eyes suddenly widened, her face filled with fear. "People from the Black Flame sect? You know what? Get lost." The woman was startled. She grabbed the handbag that had fallen on the ground and scampered away. Black Suja and the others. Ants noses. Do you think I? Be damned if you. Peach Blossom eyes also became vigilant and secretly took out the weapon that he carried with him. "Little brother, is there any misunderstanding between us?" Suja put on a gentle and refined look. He had a smile on his face, but it was a pity that his face was swollen. It was really strange. The man with the nose ring sneered, "It's nothing. I just don't like the Black Flame sect. Brothers, let's go. I'll take responsibility if you kill them." Suja and the other two's faces changed. They wanted to say something, but more than 10 people swarmed them. They had no choice but to take out their weapons to resist. "Big brother, what should we do with this woman?" A gangster wearing a skull jacket asked the man with the nose ring. The man with the nose ring glanced at the woman who was trembling in the corner with disgust. "She's so ugly. Let her go. Hurry up and get lost." The woman ran away in a panic. When she reached the entrance of the alley, she looked back at Suja and the other two who were beaten up badly by the gangsters. Her pale face showed a smug smile. That smile, coupled with her horrifying makeup, looked treacherous and terrifying. She took out a disposable cell phone from her bag and skillfully dialed the police number. The police would arrive in less than 10 minutes and arrest the bastards who were fighting on the streets. After that, the police would discover that Suja was carrying hallucinogens and other illegal drugs. Coupled with the criminal record of the Black Flame sect, even if Suja didn't go to jail, it would be enough for him to suffer. Oh, right. The men with the nose ring were from the Long Hu gang. The Long Hu gang and the Black Flame sect had always been at loggerheads. After this incident, the hatred between them would be even more intense. After calling the police, she put the phone back in her bag. She planned to throw the phone into the river when she passed by the bridge. That way, there wouldn't be any traces left. Even if Suja suspected her in the future, there wouldn't be any way to trace her identity. Who would have thought that the shrewish and vulgar street girl was actually an elegant and noble daughter of a wealthy family? That's right, the street girl was Ji Yuqi. She had asked Liang Yu to investigate Suja's whereabouts in advance. She had then revealed his whereabouts to the Black Flame sect's rival, the Long Hu gang. Then, without caring about her image, she had disguised herself as an ugly woman and pretended to be a street girl. She would wake Suja up and wash away the suspicion of Ahan. She would stall for time and wait for the Long Hu gang to arrive. When the two gangs were fighting to the death, she would then take action and bring them to the police station. Ji Yuqi raised her eyebrows. She was quite confident in her plan. Unexpectedly, an arm stretched out from the darkness and quickly wrapped around her waist. She was pulled behind a pile of obstacles. Ji Yuqi's heart skipped a beat, and she quickly threw a punch at the person behind her. A hand grabbed her fist, and a low, magnetic voice entered her ears. "Chi-Chi, did you have fun?" "Shenjia." Ji Yuqi quickly stopped her attack and spoke quickly, "Why are you here? What did you see?" Shenjia laughed softly, "I saw you teach those three bastards a lesson. It seems like Chi-Chi has the potential to be a tigress." Ji Yuqi felt as if she had been struck by lightning. Her body trembled slightly. He had seen everything. He had seen her ugly and vulgar appearance. He had seen her scheming and ruthless side. She pushed him away in a panic and covered her face with her hands. Her voice was sharp and there was a hint of fear in it. "Go away, don't look." "You didn't see anything, you didn't see anything, Chi-Chi," Shenjia frowned. He didn't know what she was afraid of. He simply hugged the young woman who was backing away step by step and whispered, "The police will be here soon. Let's leave first." Shenjia ignored her struggles and carried her in his arms. He strode towards the car parked on the street. 5 minutes passed and the two of them sat quietly in the car. They watched as the police arrived and took Suja, the man with the nose ring, and the others away. Shenjia tapped his fingers on the steering wheel and turned his head to look at Ji Yuqi. She had removed the makeup on her face and her fair cheeks were covered with a thin layer of frost. She was bright and cold like the moonlight. Her beautiful long and narrow eyes were deep and calm. She was terrifyingly calm. However, he could smell anger from her calmness. He felt helpless. This young woman had wrapped herself up tightly with a hard shell. She was resistant to anyone who tried to peel off her outer shell to get close to her heart. He felt an inexplicable heartache and wanted to pull her into his arms. However, his gaze met her cold face and he could only control himself. He smiled and asked, "Are you angry?" Ji Yuqi snorted coldly, "You promised me that you wouldn't interfere in my affairs. What's the matter now? Are you following me? Who said that I was interfering in your affairs? I just missed you, so I tracked your location and came to look for you. Didn't you say that a man should take the initiative?" Shenjia was calm and his expression was unbelievably gentle. He was a completely different person from the ruthless young Master Shen. Ah Zhe, who was sitting in the driver's seat, pursed his lips. Hey, young master, you've been secretly interfering in Miss G's affairs. Is it really okay for you to lie so shamelessly? Ji Yuchi thought of something and her face turned red. She glared at him fiercely. You saw me make a fool of myself. Are you happy now? Anyone who saw such a fierce and boorish woman would be traumatized. Shenja's obsidian-like eyes flashed with a smile. His slender fingers fell on her ear, tucking her drooping hair behind her ear. His fingers inadvertently rubbed her earlobe, and his voice was low and sweet. Oh, I'm happy. It turns out that Chi has so many sides. Ji Yuchi's face turned even redder as she felt the scalding heat from his fingers. She hurriedly tilted her head to the side to avoid his fingers. Don't you think I looked very ugly just now? She asked in an unforgiving tone. Ji Yuchi's blushing face and her shy and slightly stubborn gaze were all beautiful scenery that attracted Shinja's gaze. He chuckled softly and his laughter was indescribably pleasant. Although the makeup is a little exaggerated, it has a different kind of charm. No matter how Chi dresses up, you're still beautiful. Could this be the so-called beauty in the eyes of the pure? Sitting in the front row, Zai thought of Ji Yuchi's horrifying makeup and couldn't help but shiver. Ji Yuchi also shivered. She stared at Shinja with a strange gaze and repeatedly said in her heart, this guy isn't Shinja, this guy isn't Shinja. Shinja, who had turned into an evildoer again, she couldn't handle it. Why was her heart beating faster in her chest? Her eyes were round and her expression was strange. She was so cute that Shinja couldn't help but chuckle softly. Ji Yuchi rolled her eyes at him and decided to ignore him. The enemy was too strong and she would definitely lose if she faced him head-on. So, she chose to ignore him. Shinja saw her angry look and felt more amused. His laughter became more joyful. Ji Yuchi's eyebrows twitched. She slowly closed her eyes and spat out 2 words in her heart, I'll endure it. Chi, don't be angry. Accompanied by a low and magnetic voice, a finger poked her pink cheek. Zai saw his big boss poking Miss G's cheek with interest through the rearview mirror and felt uncomfortable. He firmly refused to admit that the man smiling like a wolf grandmother was his big boss. Stop poking, it's going to break. Ji Yuchi couldn't hold it in anymore. She suddenly opened her eyes and roared at the smiling man. The man looked serious. It won't break. If you don't believe me, you can try mine. With that said, he grabbed her finger and guided her to poke his cheek. Ji Yuchi was deeply shocked. My God, please return that arrogant and domineering Shinja to me. This evildoer who can act cute and transform is too cruel. Reality proved that Ji Yuchi couldn't resist Shinja who could act cute. She was abducted by him and Gigai made supper for him. Then, she stayed in his guest room. Awesome novel, Shinwoo 799. Chapter 824. Even as she lay down to rest and stared at the ceiling, she was still sighing in her heart. Shinja's methods of manipulating her had become even better. In the next room, a certain man, who was being nagged by Ji Yuchi, took out a small notebook called Love Notes, that he always carried with him and started writing furiously. As the book says, women like cute things, and so does Chi. After he finished writing, he thought of something and added, Chi is cute when she's being unreasonable. Oh, she's also cute when she's angry. Ji Yuchi finished showering and came out of the bathroom. Her cell phone suddenly rang and Ji Yunhan's anxious voice sounded, Sister, why aren't you back yet? Did something happen? Oh no, she had been so focused on fighting with Shinja that she had forgotten about this matter. She laughed dryly, I'm fine, I'm staying at a friend's house tonight. I won't be going back. Is it a guy or a girl? Ji Yunhan's voice suddenly became dangerous. Ji Yuchi was speechless and hesitated whether she should lie. Ji Yunhan's exasperated voice sounded, You hesitated for a second, it must be a guy. Sister, you have a boyfriend again? What did he mean by having a boyfriend again? She had always been single. Ji Yuchi coughed and hurriedly said, "Don't make wild guesses, it's a girl." "Oh yes, Ahan, I sent Yi Zhaoxian and the other two bastards to the police station. You have to be careful during this period. I'm worried that Yi Zhaoxian will find someone else to deal with you." Ji Yuchi tried to change the topic. "Okay, I got it. Sister, you're really amazing. When you come back tomorrow, you must tell me how you did it." He changed the topic and returned to the previous topic. "Sister, are you really staying at a girl's house? You're not lying to me? What a stubborn guy." Ji Yuchi supported her forehead with one hand. "Of course, where else would I be? Chi." Ji Yuchi jumped up from the sofa in shock. Shinja, he had actually pushed the door open and entered. "Sister, why do I hear a man's voice on your side?" Ji Yunhan secretly grinded his teeth. His sister actually deceived him. Chi. Ji Yuchi quickly threw herself on Shinja and covered his mouth with her left hand, stopping him from saying what he was about to say. She then laughed dryly at the person on the other end of the phone. "Ahan, it was my friend's brother who was talking just now. If there's nothing else, I'll hang up first. Bye-bye." Before Ji Yunhan could say anything, Ji Yuchi quickly ended the call and let out a long sigh of relief. Ji Yuchi felt an itchy friction under the palm of her left hand. She looked up abruptly. Shinja looked at her innocently. His beautiful eyes blinked, indicating that her hand was still covering his face. Ji Yuchi quickly retracted her hand. "I'm sorry. Why are you looking for me?" Shinja's eyes were filled with resentment and his voice was quiet. "I'm just your friend's brother." She smiled ingratiatingly. "I'm just lying to my brother. Don't mind the details, I'm just your friend's brother." He was like a repeater, repeating himself again and again. His eyes were filled with resentment, which made Ji Yuchi feel guilty. She comforted him awkwardly. "Don't mind it. I'm just saying it casually. At most, I'll introduce you to Ahan next time." Hearing this, the resentment on Shinja's face disappeared. His eyes were curved and he seemed to be in a good mood. "Are you introducing me to him as your boyfriend?" Ji Yuchi opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but in the end, she didn't say anything. She smiled bitterly and said, "Shinja, stop joking around. Let's be serious. Why were you looking for me just now?" The smile on Shinja's handsome face gradually disappeared. His dark eyes stared deeply at her and the aura around him changed. He was cold and domineering. This was the Shinja that Ji Yuchi was familiar with. He approached her, and his tall and straight body made her feel oppressed. His gaze was focused and aggressive, and his expression was solemn and dignified. It was as if he was making an oath. He said slowly, "Chi, let's date. I want to be your boyfriend and your husband." This was what he wanted to say to her when he came to her room in the middle of the night. His Chi was too beautiful. If he didn't make it clear early, he would regret it for the rest of his life when she was abducted by another man. He wanted her to understand that his feelings for her were serious. It wasn't ambiguous, nor was it a joke. It was true love. Ji Yuchi trembled and stared at him in disbelief. How could it be? In her previous life, Jiang Tianhao only confessed to her the day before her wedding. Only then did she know that he had loved her for a long time. In this life, she even thought that he wouldn't like her because she was ugly. She didn't expect that he would still like her and confess to her so early. She shook her head. No, this wasn't logical. Things shouldn't be like this. Shinja saw her shaking her head blankly and thought that she refused to accept his feelings. His eyes darkened and his thin lips were tightly pursed. His handsome face looked even more handsome under the light. He was like a god who was high up and couldn't be profaned. However, no one could see the sadness in his heart through his eyes. In his life, she was the first woman who had moved his heart. It was very likely that she was the only one. He loved her, but she didn't like him. That kind of heartache was hard to describe. He took a step back. His extremely handsome face was cold and aloof. There seemed to be a gap between the two of them. She stood on the other side and watched him leave indifferently. He didn't even look at her. Ji suddenly recalled the nightmare she had that night. He had also left her heartlessly just like that. A huge wave of panic suddenly surged from the bottom of her heart. It was like a tide that drowned her, suffocating her. With a bang, the door slammed shut. She was the only one left in the empty room. Her body was cold and her heart gradually lost its warmth. She squatted down and buried her head between her cold knees. She murmured as if in a dream, "Sure enough, you were just saying it." If it wasn't just saying it, why did he suddenly leave so heartlessly? "Shinja, you won't come back, right? This is good. At least I won't be a burden to you. But why does my heart feel so uncomfortable? It's like someone has cut it with a knife. It hurts." The man in the world who was infinitely tolerant of her had finally left her. Was she going to face endless darkness alone again? Her knees were wet, and tears fell from between her fingers. They splashed onto the wooden floor and soon left a puddle of water on the floor. She didn't know how long she maintained this position. Eventually, she fell asleep in a daze. In her dream, someone gently picked her up from the ground. His broad and warm chest made her feel at ease. She subconsciously hugged the person and murmured in her sleep, "Shinja." Shinja lowered his eyes and stared at the little girl in his arms. She was as obedient as a kitten. Her usual disguise had been removed. Her two chubby paws were wrapped around his waist. Her tear-stained face revealed a sweet smile. His slightly tensed lips relaxed a little. His deep eyes surged with complex emotions. He murmured, "Sure enough, I still can't let go. Since that's the case, why should I let go, Chi-Chi, in order to get you, even if I have to fight with the heavens, so what?" Ji woke up leaning on the soft quilt. Seeing the unfamiliar room, she thought she was still in a dream. She closed her eyes and opened them forcefully. Last night's memory instantly came back. She sat up in a daze with the quilt in her arms. After a long time, she sighed silently. She knew that she had fallen asleep on the floor last night. Shinja must have carried her back to the bed. "Shinja, can we still go back to the past?" After washing up, Ji changed her clothes and went downstairs. A stern old man in a tuxedo came up to her. Ji recognized him. He was the butler of Shinja's villa, Uncle Lin. He looked stern on the outside but was actually very kind on the inside. "Miss Ji, good morning. Your breakfast is ready." "Thank you, Uncle Lin." Ji paused and said, "Shinja, has he gone to the office?" "Yes, young master instructed me not to disturb your rest before he left." Ever since Shinja moved out of the Shin family mansion, Uncle Lin had been by his side to serve him. He even followed Shinja when he went abroad to study. In his heart, this young master was like his son. He was very clear about Shinja's feelings for Ji and hoped that they could be together. Hence, he intentionally or unintentionally said some things to matchmake them. For example, "Miss Ji, young master has been introverted since he was young. He has never dated a girl and doesn't know how to get along with a girl. He may be cold sometimes, but his love is definitely not lacking." Ji smile stiffened. She didn't know how to answer. "Miss Ji, young master specially bought a lot of books about the psychology of girls in love for the sake of dating. Have you noticed that he is changing every day? He is becoming less and less like the cold young master of the past." Ji smile cracked. So that was the case. No wonder Shinja was becoming more and more devilish. It was all because of those messy books. Her resistance to him was getting weaker and weaker. Uncle Lin was worried that Ji would misunderstand, so he added, "Of course, this is only for you." When facing other women, young master's attitude is still as cold as before. Uncle Lin, you really didn't have to add that sentence." Ji cheeks flushed red in embarrassment. She interrupted Uncle Lin's endless chatter. "Uncle Lin, thank you for telling me all this. But can you let me eat something first?" I'm so hungry. Uncle Lin's face was solemn. I'm sorry, I almost forgot. I'll bring you some food right away. Even when Ji Yuchi got into the car to go home, Uncle Lin's words still echoed in her ears. He said, Miss Ji, young master likes you very much. I've never seen him work so hard to change himself for someone. Miss Ji, if you also like young master, can you not disappoint him? There are very few people in his life that he can trust. It was these words that made Ji Yuchi's eyes sting. She almost cried. What did she, Ji Yuchi, do to deserve such deep love from a man? She had already owed him so much in her previous life. Was she going to owe him again in this life? In her previous life, she had been filled with guilt towards him. In this life, she only wanted to make it up to him and protect him. She had never seriously considered her feelings for him. Was she responsible for him, or did she like him? Ji Yuchi's mind was in a mess. She massaged her throbbing temples. She was indescribably frustrated. Before she could come to a conclusion, the car had already stopped outside the Ji family villa. After Ji Yuchi got out of the car, she thanked the chauffeur that Uncle Lin had arranged for her and walked slowly towards the door. Welfare, Songshu 566. Chapter 825. As soon as she stepped through the door, a handsome and familiar face suddenly appeared in front of her eyes. His deep eyes were filled with complex emotions as he stared at her. Yuchi, Ji Yuchi leaned slightly to the side to avoid Jiang Tianhao's outstretched hand. She smiled and said, Senior, are you here to take Zissou out to play? Jiang Tianhao's body stiffened and a touch of bitterness appeared between his brows. Yuchi, I heard that you stayed out last night. Do you have a new boyfriend? Ji Yuchi widened her eyes in disbelief as if she couldn't believe that he would say such a thing. Soon, a touch of disappointment appeared in her eyes. She stubbornly raised her chin and pretended to be cold as she said, We've already broken up. Do you think you still have the right to interfere in my affairs? Yuchi. Jiang Tianhao held her hand emotionally. How can you say that? You know that I like you. I had no choice but to. Ji Yuchi broke free from his hand. Her beautiful phoenix eyes were filled with sadness. She turned her head away and didn't dare to look at him. She said in a dry voice, Isn't it too late to say this now? You're already Zissou's fiancé and my brother-in-law. Between us, let's just leave it at that. After saying the last few words, she seemed to have exhausted all her strength. She suddenly pushed him away and ran in the direction of the stairs. On the stairs, she happened to run into Zissou, who was beautifully dressed. Zissou pretended not to see her talking to Jiang Tianhao. She affectionately called out, Sister Chi-Chi, I'm going to a class reunion with Tianhao. Do you want to come? Ji Yuchi avoided her burning gaze and forced a smile. No need. I am not feeling well. You guys have fun. With that said, she immediately brushed past Zissou and ran upstairs. Soon after, Zissou heard the loud sound of the door closing. She raised her eyebrows proudly. Sure enough, Ji Yuchi still liked Senior. This was even better. If she had fallen into depravity because of a setback in their relationship, how wonderful would that have been? Ji Yuchi's obviously sad but pretending to be strong hovered in Jiang Tianhao's mind. He clenched his fists and watched her leave with a deep gaze. When he saw Zissou's figure, the corners of his lips curled and a warm smile appeared on his gentle face. Even though she had seen it many times, Zissou's heart still raced when she saw his smile. She smiled shyly and held his arm. She said softly, Tianhao, I'm ready. Let's go. Let's go. All right. Jiang Tianhao's lips curled beautifully. When he held her arm and left, he secretly glanced in the direction of the stairs. The woman had long disappeared. He felt an inexplicable sense of loss and an uncontrollable anger. She did not return last night. She must have been with another man. Since she liked him, why did she accept another man? A thought flashed through his mind. As if struck by lightning, he suddenly froze in his steps. Could it be that he had already fallen in love with Ji-yuchi? Impossible. He would never fall in love with the daughter of his father's murderer. Yizisu also stopped and touched his face worriedly. Tianhao, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? You don't look well. Jiang Tianhao suddenly came back to his senses. Yizisu in front of him was gentle and lovely. Her delicate face was full of worry. He pursed his lips and habitually curled his lips. I'm fine. Maybe I didn't sleep well last night. Let's go. Let's not delay any longer. Yizisu uneasily grasped his arm. Are you really fine? Why don't we not go to the party? I'll accompany you home to rest. The smile on Jiang Tianhao's face became natural. He raised his hand and stroked her hair. I'm really fine. It's rare for us to get together with our high school classmates. We can't disappoint them. All right then. I'll listen to you. Yizisu leaned on his arm like a little bird. Her lowered eyes flashed with a hint of uneasiness. Tianhao lost his composure just now. Was it because of Ji-yuchi? Was he putting on an act for her, or was it all real? In front of the floor-to-ceiling window on the second floor, Ji-yuchi coldly watched the couple leave arm in arm. Her lips curled into a mocking smile. Jiang Tianhao, did he think that he was a Casanova and that every woman had to like him? Just wait and see. She would let him know his worth. Miss Ji. A cold voice came from behind her. Ji-yuchi's eyes narrowed. Qing Sang had actually avoided the Ji family's security system and quietly sneaked up behind her. She was indeed the person sent by Shinja to protect her. She turned around and smiled. Qing Sang, have you completed the mission? A faint smile appeared on Qing Sang's frosty face. It was as if the ice had just melted. It was dazzlingly beautiful. She took out a folder from her black tights and handed it to Ji-yuchi. I finally caught it yesterday. There's a video of Chen Tingfang and Yi Zhaoxian checking into a hotel room, as well as photos of them meeting each other, she said coolly. Ji-yuchi didn't take the file in her hand. Instead, she suddenly rushed forward and hugged her. Thank you for your hard work, Qing Sang. Qing Sang's body stiffened. She was stunned. She had never had physical contact with anyone before. So this was what it felt like. It was soft and warm. Hey, are you okay? Did I scare you? Ji-yuchi laughed out loud and waved her hand in front of her eyes. Qing Sang's snow-white face was stained with a layer of red. Her eyes flashed a few times, but she quickly regained her composure. Everything is in the file. Do you have any other instructions? Don't be so boring. Call me Yuchi in the future. Ji-yuchi laughed heartily and patted her shoulder. Qing Sang's lips twitched slightly. She replied expressionlessly, yes. Ji-yuchi smiled and shook her head. She opened the safe in front of her and took out a small USB flash drive. This is the evidence of Suju's crimes that I asked Liang Yu to collect. Find a way to hand it to the police. I want Suju to never step out of prison again. In her previous life, Suju had seduced her brother into the path of womanizing and taking drugs. In the end, her brother had been controlled by the Black Flame sect and died in a fight between the Black Flame sect and the Dragon Tiger gang. In this life, she wanted Suju and the Black Flame sect to pay the price. Qing Sang carefully kept the USB flash drive. Her face was expressionless, but her heart was in turmoil. She didn't expect young Master Shen to transfer Liang Yu to Ji-yuchi. It seemed that Ji-yuchi was very important to young Master Shen. Qing Sang came and left quietly. Her martial arts skills were amazing. Ji-yuchi could only be envious of her. She didn't seem like she was born to practice martial arts. Although she practiced hard every day, she could only deal with ordinary martial arts masters. If she were to meet an international mercenary like Qing Sang, she could only wash her neck clean and wait for death. Ji-yuchi opened the file and took out a CD as well as several photos. The photos were very clear. There were photos of Chen Tingfang and Yi Zhaoxian holding hands, and there were also photos of them kissing passionately. There were even photos of them rolling around in bed. TSK, the scale was very large, and the colors were very dazzling. As for the CD, it was even more colorful. The two of them changed several positions. They were like wolves in their 30s and tigers in their 40s. Ji Yuqi watched it as if she was watching a movie. Her expression didn't change. Of course, her main purpose was not to watch the content. Her main purpose was to listen to what they said while rolling on the bed. In the CD, Yi Zhaoxian hugged Chen Tingfang and murmured, Ji Yunhan was taken to a hotel by Zhou a few days ago. Unexpectedly, a mysterious person suddenly appeared and rescued Ji Yunhan. According to Miss Yao Mei, that night, she didn't see anything clearly. She was knocked out by a red thing. Do you have any thoughts about that mysterious person? Chen Tingfang lay on his chest. Her eyes were still filled with a unique charm after sex. She frowned. I can't guess. That person can't be Ji Yuqi, Yi Zhaoxian sneered. Are you stupid? Ji Yuqi is just a delicate Mississippi. She doesn't know any martial arts, not to mention rescuing someone under Aja's nose. The last time we kidnapped Ji Yuqi and she escaped, I suspected that she had someone backing her. This time, I'm even more certain that the person behind her is really powerful. He can even guess what we want to do. The man's eyes narrowed dangerously. There was a malicious glint in his eyes. Chen Tingfang agreed with his thoughts. Her expression became more serious. She thought for a moment and said, things have already come to this. We can't give up. No matter who is behind her, I have to get rid of them. When the time comes, the Ji family's assets will be ours. Yi Zhaoxian rubbed her face with a half-smile. Baby, it's no wonder people say that a woman's heart is the most poisonous. Ji Bowen treats you so well. Do you have the heart to deal with him? Chen Tingfang obviously knew that he was testing her. She sneered. He treats me well. He only has the dead Su Meiyu in his heart. No matter how well I do, he won't acknowledge me. He won't treat me as his wife. I must have been blind to have married him back then. Yi Zhaoxian chuckled. Then were you blind to have married me back then? Chen Tingfang glared at him. It's good that you know. I've been screwed over by you two stinky men. You were careless with your investments back then. You didn't know the right person and caused the company to go bankrupt. We're in debt. We're being chased by loan sharks every day. Have I ever complained? You actually want to mortgage me to the creditors. The more she spoke, the angrier and sadder she became. Tears fell uncontrollably. Thinking back to those inhumane days a few years ago, it was really a kind of torture. In the end, she was so angry that she asked her declining family for help. Finally, she divorced Yi Zhaoxian and returned to her family with her daughter. Later, she reunited with Ji Bowen and the two of them continued their relationship. She did live a happy life for a period of time, but life couldn't be perfect. She found that Ji Bowen was still hiding his dead ex-wife in his heart, which was hard for her to accept. When Yi Zhaoxian went bankrupt, Chen Tingfang was afraid of being poor. So, after she married Ji Bowen, she habitually took money and squandered it. She used money to prove her value. He was very frugal and couldn't stand her extravagance. He told her not to play cards with those rich women all day, but she had nothing to do and he didn't accompany her. If she didn't play cards or have fun, how could she pass the time? In addition, as someone's stepmother, Ji Bowen often suspected that she didn't treat the child well, causing her mentality to gradually become twisted. All she thought about was how to seize the Ji family's wealth and no longer relied on those men. Beauty novel, Hongcha 866. Chapter 826. Yi Zhaoxian saw that the more she cried, the more upset she became. He quickly hugged her tightly and patted her back to comfort her. Honey, don't cry. It's all my fault. Isn't it all in the past now? Don't think about the past anymore, okay? Chen Tingfang glared at him angrily. Don't think I don't know that you're trying to get close to me for money. Yi Zhaoxian felt wronged. Honey, aren't you accusing me wrongly? I really missed you, that's why I met you. Don't talk about money. It's hurtful. Chen Tingfang sneered. Fine, let's not talk about money. If Su Zhe is not reliable, I won't give you a single cent of the 500,000 we agreed on. After she finished speaking, she got out of his arms and stood up to leave. Yi Zhaoxian grabbed her arm and pulled her back into his arms. Honey, don't be like this. Su Zhe is only willing to work for me because of the 500,000. If he doesn't receive the money and tells his sister about it, we'll be asking for trouble. Isn't Su Yanqing your woman? You should deal with her. You're so capable, don't tell me you can't even deal with a woman. Chen Tingfang felt upset at the mention of Su Yanqing. What was so good about that woman from the underground organization? Why did Yi Zhaoxian fall for her? Honey, can we not be jealous of her? Between me and her, we both get what we want. You know that the person I truly love is you. Yi Zhaoxian hugged Chen Tingfang and comforted her. Chen Tingfang's anger gradually dissipated. Although she was reluctant, she still handed the 500,000 check to Yi Zhaoxian. He was right, if Su Zhe didn't get the money, he would definitely not let it go. If the matter was exposed, she would also be in trouble. So it was better to take the money out. A portion of her hard-earned private savings was gone. Chen Tingfang's heart ached. She was thinking of a way to extort more money from Ji Bowen. Although Ji Yuqi couldn't guess what Chen Tingfang was thinking, she could tell from Chen Tingfang's pained expression that she was reluctant to part with the money. Ji Yuqi couldn't help but chuckle. A thought flashed through her mind, and she suddenly thought of a way to cut off Chen Tingfang's financial support. If she didn't have financial support, would she be able to bribe others without restraint? The answer, of course not. In this society, it was difficult to do anything without money was the money. After watching the video and obtaining useful information, Ji Yuqi began to think about the next step of her plan. She pondered for a long time and finally, a name appeared in her mind. Her fair fingers flew across the keyboard as she searched for information about Gao Qiao Technology Company on the internet. Soon, a bunch of news popped up. The latest news stated that Gao Qiao Technology Company was about to acquire Wanxing Entertainment. After the acquisition, Gao Qiao Technology Company would have a 40% market share in the gaming industry and become the leader of the gaming industry. As soon as the news came out, the stock price of Gao Qiao Technology Company rose rapidly. After the acquisition was successful, the stock price would definitely rise crazily. For many investors, this was a rare opportunity. Ji Yuqi's lips curled into a sly smile. She tapped her fair fingers on the table. Gao Qiao Technology Company, this is it. After confirming the target, she quickly made a copy of the video of Chen Tingfang's affair and locked it in the safe. It would be useful to take it out at the critical moment. Next, she would be able to get her hands on Chen Tingfang's little treasure. She felt a little excited just thinking about it. As for Chen Tingfang, she was glowing after Yi Zhaoxian's nourishment. However, it didn't last long before her mood turned gloomy. This was because the next morning, she received news from Yi Zhaoxian that Su Zhe had messed up Ji Yunhan's matter. He had also gotten into a fight with the Longhu gang and had been arrested by the police. The police had found a lot of hallucinogens on Su Zhe's body and he might even go to jail. Chen Tingfang was furious. She had paid Yi Zhaoxian $500,000 yesterday. In the end, things had turned out this way. How could she be happy? More importantly, her little treasury was only going out, not going in. If she couldn't deal with Ji Yuqi, that little b*tch, and Ji Yunhan, that little bastard, she would first be stifled to death by money. Chen Tingfang was very frustrated these few days. Firstly, she was annoyed that the Ji siblings were still in front of her. Secondly, she was annoyed by the fact that she had no money. She was constantly thinking about how to ask Ji Bowen for money. However, every time she came up with an excuse, she had already used it before. She had no choice but to give up on the idea and think about it again. On this day, Chen Tingfang came downstairs and saw Ji Yuqi sitting on the sofa reading a financial magazine. Ji Yunhan was sitting opposite her and playing games. The siblings were chatting casually. Ji Yunhan was playing games and said, "Sister, didn't you used to hate those magazines the most? Why are you reading them with so much interest today?" Ji Yuqi answered without looking up, "What do you know? There are many interviews with successful people in these financial magazines. I can learn a lot from their interviews." Ji Yunhan snorted. "Come on, I think you're just looking for a handsome guy. It's said that the CEO of that company is a handsome guy who can shock the heavens and make ghosts and gods weep. However, I think he's just a so-so. He's not even as handsome as me." "What nonsense are you talking about? That's called Gaochou Technology Company. The CEO's name is Yu Lei. He obtained a double doctorate from Cambridge University in England. He's not even 27 years old this year. He's handsome and capable. I heard that he's going to buy Wanching Entertainment and become the overlord of the gaming industry. You're still wet behind the ears. You'd better learn from him." Ji Yuqi held the magazine and sighed. She was infatuated with Yu Lei's photo. She whispered, "This photo is so good. He's so handsome that it's unreasonable." Chen Tingfang snorted at Ji Yuqi's infatuation. However, she was interested in Yu Lei. Her son-in-law should be a talented, handsome, and rich man. Sigh, what a pity. If only Zissou and Jiang Tianhao didn't have a scandal. "Yuqi, Ahan, I have an appointment with a few friends. I'll go out first. Gigai is at home," Chen Tingfang said with a smile. She grabbed her LV bag and walked out of the house. Ji Yuqi and Ji Yunhan looked at each other and smiled. They threw the things in their hands on the table at the same time and went upstairs to do their own things. Chen Tingfang went to the beauty salon first. When she was soaking in the hot spring, she met two familiar ladies. They were talking about stocks with a young and beautiful girl. When they saw Chen Tingfang, they greeted her warmly and introduced the young girl to her. "Mrs. Chen, this is Miss Qing Li. Although she's young, she's a famous investment and financial expert in Hong Kong." "Is that so? Miss Qing is really beautiful." Chen Tingfang looked at the young girl with a smile. Something was slowly growing in her mind. Qing Li smiled elegantly. "Mrs. Chen, you're flattering me. How can I compare to your grace and nobility?" "Mrs. Lin, Mrs. Li, Mrs. Chen, nice to meet you. I've already soaked in the hot spring, so I won't disturb the three of you. Let's talk again in the future." Mrs. Lin was reluctant to see her leave, but she was going to do the next beauty project. She didn't want to force her to stay. She could only smile and say that they would talk again next time. Chen Tingfang had a good relationship with Mrs. Lin. Seeing her like this, she couldn't help but be curious. "Didn't you just meet? You can't bear to see her leave so soon." Mrs. Lin smiled and said, "You don't know. Just now, Qing Li talked to us about investment and financial management. We learned a lot. To be honest, although our family is rich, the money given by our husband is limited. I've long wanted to use my own private money to earn some pocket money. After hearing Qing Li's words, I want to invest and buy some stocks." Chen Tingfang's eyebrows twitched. Mrs. Lin's words really hit the nail on the head. She pretended not to care and waved her hand. "It's very risky to play stocks. I advise you not to play. Why don't you invest in opening a store and do some small business?" Mrs. Lin sneered. "Invest in a store? Do you think I'm cut out for business? Maybe the store will collapse in less than a month." She wanted to show off the knowledge she learned from Qing Li and said proudly, "Qing Li analyzed more than 10 stocks just now. She said that the stock with the most potential is Gaochou Technology stock. Have you heard of Yu Lei? He's the CEO of Gaochou Technology. He's young and has a lot of background. The Yu family is one of the richest families in Hansheng. Gao Qiao Technology is also the Yu family's business. Hansheng was a neighboring city of Ying City. Chen Tingfang wasn't familiar with the Yu family. However, she thought that her cousin Lu Jianfeng was working in Hansheng. He must know the few big families in Hansheng like the back of his hand. She made up her mind, but her expression didn't show it. She still looked uninterested. Forget it. No matter how good Qing Li said it, I still don't dare to try. It'll be troublesome if I lose. Mrs. Lin couldn't be bothered to persuade her again. She started chatting with Mrs. Li again. They were still talking about stocks. It seemed like the two of them were really planning to invest. Chen Tingfang wasn't in the mood to do any more beauty treatments. She finished quickly and walked out of the beauty salon. She asked the driver to take her to the coffee shop she frequented. She chose a seat by the window and stirred the coffee in her cup with one hand and made a call with the other. "Cousin, is it convenient for you to answer the call now?" The man on the other end of the phone was inspecting the construction site with a group of subordinates. When he received the call, he nodded to his secretary and walked to a place where there was no one. The secretary hurriedly greeted everyone with a smile. "President Liu has something to do. Let's continue." "Engineer Wang, you said that this building..." Lu Jianfeng stopped at a flat area and smiled. With a gentle voice, he said, "All right, Xiao Min. You can tell me what you want." Chen Tingfang heard his deep and pleasant voice and couldn't help but smile. "Cousin, do you know much about the Yu family in Hansheng?" The Yu family can be said to be the second largest family in Hansheng. The head of the family, Yu Lindong, single-handedly established the Yu family business empire. They are involved in manufacturing, retail, tourism, and many other business sectors. You can think of them as the Shen family of Hansheng. Of course, the Yu family is still slightly inferior to the Shen family. After all, the Shen family is the largest family in Ying City. Even if they were in two different cities, the Shen family and the Yu family could still be compared. Chen Tingfang could feel the power of the Yu family from his simple explanation. Chen Tingfang's eyes flashed and she continued to ask, "Cousin, is there a young master called Yu Lei in the Yu family?" Add Song Shu 566. Chapter 827. Lu Jianfeng nodded. Other than Hansheng, the Yu clan is also expanding towards Ying City. Yu Lei is the eldest grandson of the Yu clan. He took over the Yu clan's business in Ying City as soon as he returned. This young man is quite capable. The Yu clan's future is probably in his hands. While listening to him, Chen Tingfang weighed the pros and cons in her heart. Just as she was about to make up her mind, Lu Jianfeng suddenly said, "Xiao Min, why are you suddenly interested in the Yu clan?" "Cousin, you also know that Zissou is not young anymore. Previously, I saw Yu Lei at a banquet and had a good impression of this young man. I want to set him up with Zissou, so I wanted to get some information from you first." Chen Tingfang did not tell the truth. She did not want her cousin to know that she had used her private savings to invest. She felt that this would make him feel that she was not living well. Chen Tingfang did not think deeply about why she had such thoughts. She had already told the lie out of reflex. Lu Jianfeng did not suspect anything. He had always trusted his cousin's words. He frowned slightly and said, "I heard about the scandal that Zissou had caused a while ago even when I was far away in Hansheng. Yu Lei must have heard about it too. I don't think that the Yu clan will accept Zissou. Moreover, Zissou and that guy called Jiang Tianhao are already engaged. If you change your mind, it will only affect Zissou's reputation. You, don't think so much. Just let the two of them be together." "Alright, I know. I just want to find a better man for Zissou," Chen Tingfang's aggrieved voice sounded. Lu Jianfeng's handsome face could not help but reveal a smile. He said gently, "I haven't done anything yet, but you're the one who's aggrieved. Why are you getting more and more childish? I really don't know what to do with you. Who asked you to be my cousin?" Chen Tingfang smiled charmingly and acted coquettishly without restraint. At this moment, she was like a teenage girl with an indescribable beauty. After ending the call, Chen Tingfang finished the coffee in her cup in a good mood. Now, she had proven that the Yu clan was indeed very capable. As long as she could prove that Gao Qiao Technology's acquisition of Wanxing Entertainment was foolproof, then she would only gain and not lose money in buying Gao Qiao Technology's shares. Chen Tingfang turned her head and looked out the window. How could she obtain insider information to prove that the acquisition of Gao Qiao Technology was foolproof? Yes, Zhong. Don't ask why. Just buy it. That's right. 1 million. All for Gao Qiao Technology. Gao Qiao Technology, these words suddenly poured into her ears. Chen Tingfang suddenly turned her head to look at the source of the voice. 2 tables away from her, a man wearing gold-rimmed glasses was holding a mobile phone in one hand and moving the keyboard with the other. From his side view, he was very focused on the computer screen, as if there was something on it that attracted him. Chen Tingfang retracted her gaze, but her mind was still there, eavesdropping on the man's phone call with all her attention. The man suppressed his anger and growled, "Just do as I say. Why are you talking so much nonsense? All right, it's not convenient for me to talk now. Hurry up and buy the shares. If you delay my business, I'll fire you immediately." Pa. The man seemed to be angry. He slammed the laptop shut, then put away the laptop and mobile phone. He glanced at his watch and hurriedly disappeared from the door of the coffee shop. Chen Tingfang quickly stood up and walked out of the door. She didn't know why, but she had an impulse to find out the man's identity. She got into the car and ordered the driver to follow the man's BMW. When she followed the man to a building with the sign, Wanxing Entertainment, she saw Miss at the front desk being polite and respectful to the man. She suddenly understood. However, she still couldn't believe it. After the man walked into the elevator and went upstairs, Chen Tingfang quickly walked to the front desk and asked with a smile, "Miss, was the person you were talking to just now an employee of Wanxing Entertainment?" Miss at the front desk smiled politely. "Yes, he is our company's finance minister." "May I ask why you are looking for our minister?" "Nothing, thank you." Chen Tingfang tried to suppress her wildly beating heart and turned to leave calmly. After Chen Tingfang's black car drove away from the building, a man wearing gold-rimmed glasses and carrying a briefcase walked to the front desk with steady steps. He placed the envelope with cash in front of Miss at the front desk and smiled. "Thank you for your cooperation." "You're welcome." Miss at the front desk smiled sweetly. She could get $10,000 just by telling a lie. Where else could she find such a good deal? She didn't expect that because of her lie, another person would lose a lot of money. Liang Yu pushed up the glasses on the bridge of his nose with satisfaction. Like a successful person, he carried his briefcase and walked out of the building. Under the sunlight, his slender fingers holding the phone were beautiful. "Miss Ji, everything went well." Ji Yuqi he admired this woman more and more. She was actually able to see through the Yu clan's twists and turns and came up with such a complicated scam. Moreover, she was able to predict Chen Tingfang's personality perfectly. This woman was not simple. Only a man like young Master Shen would be worthy of her. Liang Yu raised his eyebrows and a smile flashed through his starry eyes. He was indescribably elegant. "Sister, what the hell are you doing?" Ji Yuqi suddenly became interested in finance these days. She held the computer and read the news every day, which made Ji Yunhan confused. Ji Yuqi raised her head and smiled mysteriously. "Ahan, let's register a company abroad." "Ah. Sister, are you having a fever?" Ji Yunhan threw himself in front of Ji Yuqi and put his hand on her forehead to check her temperature. "Go away, I'm being serious with you." Ji Yuqi pushed his hand away and told him the plan to deal with Chen Tingfang seriously. Finally, she said, "I asked Qing Sang and Liang Yu to induce her to buy the shares of Gao Qiao Technology. With her character, she will definitely lose everything. The reason why I want to set up a company is..." She told him her plan. Ji Yunhan opened his mouth wide and looked at her as if she was an alien. Finally, he came back to his senses and said, "Sister, you're playing a big game. Are you sure it will go as you wish?" "Of course." Ji Yuqi just gave an affirmative answer without further explanation. She couldn't tell him that she was reborn and knew a lot about Gao Qiao technology. Therefore, Ji Yuqi changed the topic. "Ahan, have you solved the problem between you and Lu Sisi?" Ji Yunhan's face darkened at the mention of this. He ran his fingers through his hair impatiently. "I don't know what to do. Until now, she still won't tell me the truth." Ji Yuqi patted him on the shoulder. "Do you still like her?" Ji Yunhan froze and fell silent. After a while, he said indifferently, "I do, but it's impossible between us." Ji Yuqi said softly, "Ahan, you're a man now. No matter what decision you make, sister will support you. But don't let yourself regret it." Ji Yunhan sat alone on the sofa and spaced out for a long time. After some time, he suddenly jumped up, grabbed his car keys, and ran out the door. The lake was covered in green grass. Weeping willows brushed across the surface of the lake, creating ripples. A young man and a young woman looked at each other as they silently strolled along the lakeside path. When they reached the end of the lakeside, Ji Yunhan sat down on the ground and gazed into the distance at the sparkling lake. Lu Sisi hesitated for a moment before sitting down next to him. "Sisi." Ji Yunhan was still looking at the lake and said calmly, "Do you still remember the first day of school?" Lu Sisi sensed that the atmosphere was a little strange. Although she didn't understand why he brought up the past, she still smiled and answered cooperatively, "I remember. The first day of school, you went to the school to register yourself. You couldn't find the academic affairs office, so I led you there." "Yeah. Actually, I fell in love with you back then." Ji Yunhan's lips curved slightly. He looked into the distance with nostalgia, as if he wanted to see the past. Lu Sisi was slightly stunned. She seemed to have thought of something. Her lips moved, but she didn't say anything in the end. Her dark eyes were filled with sorrow. Ji Yunhan's expression became lonely, and his tone was so lonely. It was a mistake from the beginning. Since it's a mistake, let's let it go back to its original place. "Sisi, let's break up." Even though she had imagined the scene of him breaking up many times and tried hard to tell herself not to be sad and cry, when she really faced it, tears couldn't help but flow out of her eyes. Lu Sisi turned her head in a panic. She didn't want him to see her tear-stained face. She tried to keep her voice cold and calm. "Okay. You already know, right?" Ji Yunhan clenched his fists and slowly closed his eyes. He forced himself not to look at her sad face. His voice was very low. "That's right. I don't want to blame you. After all, you have your difficulties. Actually, as long as you trust me a little more, many problems can be solved." For example, money problems weren't difficult for him at all. At most, he would sell the antiques his grandfather had left him to help her pay off her gambling debts. Unfortunately, Lu Sisi was too arrogant. She thought she could solve everything, but she didn't expect to personally push the person who loved her into the abyss of pain. "Sisi, do you know what they plan to do to me? If you knew that I was about to fall into the abyss and be tainted with sin, would you still give me to that group of demons? Sisi, I hate you for lying to me, but I hate you even more for not trusting me. If you had trusted me a little more, we wouldn't have fallen into this situation." His eyes, which had been dry, became moist because of the pain in his heart. Ji Yunhan didn't dare to open his eyes. He was afraid that if he did, he would expose his weakness. Lu Sisi hugged her knees and buried her head in them. Her tears had already wet her clothes. Ji Yunhan stood beside her and placed a bank card at her feet. He said, "There's 500,000 in here. The password is your birthday. Goodbye, Sisi." The sound of footsteps gradually faded away. The heart-wrenching pain was about to tear Lu Sisi apart. She finally burst into tears. Only at the moment of loss did she know how painful it was. She thought that everything was just a scam, but she had already given her heart from the beginning. Ji Yunhan, if I could choose again, I wouldn't let you down again. Ji Yunhan stood on a small bridge in the distance. He looked at the girl crying hysterically by the lake. The pain in his heart was no less than hers. He even wanted to go back a few times, but in the end, he only punched the railing of the bridge. Even if the back of his hand was scratched and blood flowed, he acted as if he didn't see it. A long time later, Ji Yuqi asked him if he regretted giving up on Lu Cixi. Attention, Songshu 566. Chapter 828. He thought about it for a long time and smiled lightly. He regretted it, but even if he was given another chance, he wouldn't change his mind. Even if he took care of it carefully, a love that had already deteriorated would still die early. They had missed each other after all. Qing Sang sent the evidence of Suju's crimes to the police station anonymously. Among them, he had forced women into prostitution and sold drugs. Suju could be sentenced to 5 to 10 years in prison. When Suju's father, Su Bingkuan, received the news, he immediately hired the most famous lawyer in Ing City. He also used his connections to meet the prosecutor in charge of the trial. He wanted to use coercion and bribery to make the prosecutor comply. However, he didn't know that the prosecutor had already received Shinja's promise in advance. As long as the prosecutor handled the case impartially, the Shin family would guarantee the personal safety of the prosecutor and his family. The Shin family had a complicated political relationship and strong power. Since Shinja had made a promise, the prosecutor would of course follow his heart and handle the case impartially. Suju was sentenced to 20 years in prison. When the verdict was announced, the leader of the Black Flame clan, Su Bingkuan, fainted. He had a son at an old age and had hoped that his son would inherit the family business and bring the Black Flame clan to greater heights. He didn't expect that his son would be arrested and sent to the police station and spend the rest of his life in prison. How could he not be angry? How could he not hate him? Su Yanqing was as angry as Su Bingkuan. Although Su Yanqing was a woman, she had been in the underworld with her uncle since she was young. She was arrogant and domineering. However, she doted on her younger brother who was 5 years younger than her the most. In front of him, she immediately turned from a tigress to Hello Kitty. Even if her brother wanted the stars in the sky, she would find a way to pluck them for him. Suju's imprisonment was undoubtedly a huge blow to her. She was once a proud woman, but she had become quiet overnight. She knew that the weight on her shoulders had increased. She had to stand behind her father and carry the entire Black Flame sect on her shoulders. On the day of the verdict, Ji Yuqi wore a pair of sunglasses and sat in the corner of the gallery. She witnessed the scene of Su Bingkuan fainting, and also the scene of Su Yanqing's tears rolling down her cheeks. Her dark eyes, which were covered by the sunglasses, flashed with a fanatical light. Her fingers clenched the seat tightly. Yes, that's it. Suffer for your loved ones. Otherwise, how can you understand my pain? The crowd in the courtroom dispersed. Ji Yuqi walked down the empty corridor and gazed at the exit in the distance. A faint smile crossed her lips. It was time to take out that thing and add another shackle to Qin Tingfang's overburdened body. Miss, your express delivery. An underling knocked on the door and placed a package on Su Yanqing's desk. Su Yanqing pinched her eyebrows and waved her hand to dismiss him. This was a mysterious express delivery. There was neither the sender's name nor the sender's address. If it weren't for the thin envelope, she would have been worried that there was a bomb inside. She hesitated for a second and quickly opened the envelope. She took out a CD from the envelope. Su Yanqing frowned and stuffed the CD into the DVD player. After a few seconds, an image appeared on the screen. In a luxurious hotel room, a man and woman were passionately hugging each other, expressing their love for each other in the most primitive way. The disgusting image played in front of her eyes and the harsh sounds echoed in her ears. Su Yanqing's face became paler and paler. Suddenly, she covered her mouth and almost vomited. She rushed forward and picked up the remote control to fast forward. Her eyes were filled with hatred and she glared at the two people on the screen. Okay, let's not talk about money. If Suja is not reliable, I won't give you a single cent of the $500,000 we agreed on. Honey, don't be like this. Suja is only willing to work for me because of the $500,000. If he doesn't receive the money and tells his sister about this, we'll be asking for trouble. Isn't Su Yanqing your woman? You should settle her. You're so capable, can't you even settle a woman? Honey, can't we not be jealous of her? Between us, we both get what we want. You know that the person I truly love is still you. The words that came out of the couple's mouths were like a raging fire that burned Su Yanqing's heart. It also burned her anger to the extreme. Her eyes shot out anger and resentment. Damned couple, they actually used her, they actually used Aja. If it wasn't for them, how could Aja be in jail? At this moment, Su Yanqing wanted nothing more than to rip out the tendons of that pair of bitches and tear out their throats. Someone knocked on the office door. Su Yanqing, who had lost her rationality due to hatred, was pulled back to reality. She quickly turned off the DVD player and stared expressionlessly at the person who walked in. The person suddenly felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar and couldn't help but tremble. He quickly reported his work respectfully. Miss, our territory in New Street has been taken away by the Dragon Tiger Gang. Do you think we should take it back? The conflict between the Black Flame sect and the Dragon Tiger Gang had been going on for a long time. However, it was during the fight between Aja and the Dragon Tiger Gang that the Dragon Tiger Gang took advantage of. After Aja was captured, the Dragon Tiger Gang took the opportunity to take over the New Street, causing the Black Flame sect to suffer a huge loss. Of course, this debt would be blamed on Yi Zhaoxian and Chen Tingfang. Su Yanqing's cold gaze didn't waver. No need. Let's give New Street to the Dragon Tiger Gang. I'll talk to Gao Tianhu personally. The Black Flame sect had suffered a huge loss this time. Other than Suja, a few of their leaders had also been arrested and sent to jail. If they continued to fight with the Dragon Tiger Gang, it would only give them an excuse to plunder. She wanted to use the excuse of peace talks and coexist peacefully with the Dragon Tiger Gang to buy time for them to recuperate. The little brother responded and retreated. Su Yanqing used the dagger to cut the DVD. The ruthlessness in her eyes was chilling. She laughed coldly. Yi Zhaoxian, since you dared to betray me, you'll have to pay the price for betraying me. And Chen Tingfang, don't even think about escaping. Perhaps it was because hatred had blinded her, or perhaps it was because, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Su Yanqing didn't even consider who had sent the DVD to her. Of course, even if she did investigate, she wouldn't be able to trace it back to Ji Yuqi. The days were calm and peaceful. Ji Yuqi waited leisurely. Everything was going according to her plan. It wouldn't be long before Chen Tingfang was in big trouble. Chen Tingfang was very unlucky that day. Her handbag was stolen by a thief when she was shopping with a few wealthy ladies. Not only did she lose her bank card, she also lost her mobile phone. The items weren't expensive, but it was troublesome to replace them. Fortunately, there was always something that made her happy. The stock price of Gao Qiao Technology was rising. The CEO, Yu Lei, announced on the media that the acquisition negotiations had entered the final stage. Gao Qiao Technology would soon sign the agreement with Wanxing Entertainment. After returning home, the butler passed her a letter, saying that it was from a stranger. Chen Tingfang was curious. She opened the letter and saw that it was from Yi Zhaoxian. Yi Zhaoxian said that Su Yanqing had begun to suspect that someone was behind Suja's imprisonment. It wasn't convenient for him to contact her on the phone, so he had used the most primitive method to contact her. He also asked her to meet at the hotel tomorrow to discuss their next step. Chen Tingfang had been married to Yi Zhaoxian for many years. She could tell that it was indeed written by him, so she didn't suspect anything. She thought about it for a while and decided to meet him. After all, Yi Zhaoxian was still useful to her. On the other hand, Yi Zhaoxian received a text from Chen Tingfang. "Hubby, I want to talk to you about something. See you at the usual place tomorrow. Be there or be square." The next day, at the Galaxy Hotel. Yi Zhaoxian avoided Su Yanqing's subordinates and drove to the Galaxy Hotel. He booked a room and waited for more than half an hour. Chen Tingfang still hadn't appeared, but he didn't take it to heart. She was always late for dates anyway. He simply took a shower and lay on the bed to rest. On the other hand, Chen Tingfang was about to go out for the date when Ji Bowen suddenly called her from the office. "Tingfang, hurry to the airport. Wanhua is back." Chen Tingfang was shocked. "Wanhua is back? Why didn't she tell us in advance?" Ji Bowen sounded helpless. "You know Wanhua's character very well. If it wasn't for Qin Xian calling me from abroad, I wouldn't have known that she had arrived in Ning City today. Hurry to the airport and pick her up. Her plane will arrive in an hour." Okay. I got it. Don't worry, I'll definitely bring her home." After ending the call, Chen Tingfang was extremely depressed. Ji Wanhua, since you've already settled abroad, why did you come back?" Speaking of this Ji Wanhua, Chen Tingfang didn't have a good impression of her at all. Instead, she was full of resentment. Alright, she couldn't go on a date with Yi Zhaoxian now. She even brought back a jinx. Chen Tingfang was furious. She wanted to call Yi Zhaoxian to cancel the date, but she was worried that Su Yanqing would eavesdrop on his phone and find out that they were having an affair. She could only give up. Anyway, Yi Zhaoxian wasn't stupid. If she didn't show up for more than 2 hours, he should be able to guess that something had happened. Yi Zhaoxian fell asleep as he waited. In a daze, he heard someone ring the doorbell. He sleepily got up, walked to the door, and opened it. Without looking at the person outside, he complained, "You're too slow today. I've been waiting for you for more than an hour." "Is that so?" A cold and familiar voice came from outside the door. Yi Zhaoxian suddenly woke up. Several thoughts flashed through his mind, but he didn't show it on his face. He smiled and said, "Yeah, Yanqing, you're too slow. I almost thought that you didn't see the note I left for you." Su Yanqing's beautiful face was cold. Her cold gaze swept across his body. His white bathrobe was slightly open, revealing his firm chest. Her lips curled slightly and her voice was extremely cold. "I almost thought that you really left me a note." Yi Zhaoxian's heart tightened. He reached out his arm and wrapped it around her waist. He said softly, "I saw that you weren't in a good mood recently, so I wanted to invite you here to relax." As he spoke, he walked into the room with her in his arms. Everything was so natural and honest, as if he wasn't afraid that she would discover any secrets. Su Yanqing only felt that the large palm around her waist was like the tongue of a venomous snake. It was so disgusting that she wanted to vomit. She grabbed his wrist and suddenly exerted force, venting all her anger. She used so much force that even a man like Yi Zhaoxian couldn't bear it. He didn't shake off her hand. Instead, he gritted his teeth. His handsome face was covered with dark clouds. He suppressed his anger and said, "Yanqing, what's wrong with you?" Welfare, Xinwu 799. You're tuning into the A Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.